Identify yourself and your relationship to the project. The commissioners will not ask any questions during your presentation. Your project should be presented in the following order: site plan, elevations, architectural details, wall sections. Staff will then present their report. We will then ask for public comment. Please state and spell your name clearly if you are here to speak for or against the project. Your time will be limited to 3 minutes, so take some time now to summarize your comments because 3 minutes goes by very quickly. Following public comment, the commissioners will ask questions in the same order as the presentation. Next, the applicant will have 5 minutes for a rebuttal. The public hearing will then be closed. After the public hearing is closed, no further testimony can be given. The commissioners will then discuss the case and will make their decision based on Chapter 27 of the City Code of Ordinances, the design guidelines, the Secretary of Interior standards, Historic Preservation Development Review Committee comments, and the testimony given at the public hearing. The ARC can only act on items that are within our specific jurisdictional responsibility. Owner agents are independently responsible to obtain any appropriate permits and/or approvals. If you haven't done so, please silence cell phones, and I will start on my left with the introduction of commissioners.
Elena Paris Ketchum, Attorney Representative.
Good evening, I'm Carol Post, I'm the Public Policy Representative.
I'm John Prokop, I practice architecture.
I'm Brian Hammond, architect.
In addition, we have Alexis Guzman, Dennis Fernandez, and our legal counsel, Dana Crosby Collier. And tonight she has Maya Horowitz from the legal as well. And with that, Dennis. Yeah, I got this.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Dennis Fernandez, Architecture Review and Historic Preservation Manager. If we could move the February 10th and 12th minutes. Next, please.
Do I hear a motion?
I move to accept the February 10th and 12th minutes.
Second.
All right. No discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Very good. Next, we have to reconsider a motion from the February 12th, 2025 meeting where a continuance occurred and had provided the wrong date in error. And I'm going to ask our legal counsel to bring you up to date and give you the process for doing that.
Good evening, Dana Crosby Collier from the City Attorney's Office. At this time, we have to do a motion, as Dennis said, to reconsider the action that was taken at the February 12th meeting so that we can continue the item to the proper date. So in order to do a motion to reconsider, the first step, and I've given you all a sample motion at your seat, the first step to do a motion to reconsider is for someone who voted on the prevailing side of the motion to continue at the February 12th meeting, so that would be Mr. Hammond or Mr. Prokop tonight, would make a motion to reconsider the continuance granted by the ARC on February 12th for the item listed on your sample motion. And after you all approve the motion to reconsider, then we'll consider the new motion with the correct date. And anyone can make that motion.
All right, I make a motion to reconsider the continuance granted by the ARC on February 12th, 2025 for ARC 25-00000047 for the property located at 2904 North Elmore Avenue to April 1st, 2025 because of an incorrect date.
Okay, do I have a second?
Anyone can second, yeah.
Second.
All right. No discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, motion passes. Do I hear the second motion?
I move to grant a continuance to case ARC 25-000047 for the property located at 2904 North Elmore Avenue to the ARC meeting scheduled for April 7th, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. in council chambers at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, Tampa, Florida.
Second.
All right, we have a second. No discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next, I wanted to take an opportunity to bring to your attention the current version of the bricks and mortar newsletter that's in your packets. That's also provided on our website, and we have a mailing list for anyone interested in receiving that. It does feature our main topic of our preservation in progress, which I'll jump into now. This is our reoccurring snapshot of preservation in the city of Tampa to bring some attention to not only the successes, but also the appropriate standards that are applied. And so do you have that presentation on your screens? Okay, very good. So this segment is focusing on the Ybor City Museum, State Park, and what's referred to as Preservation Park. So located in the Ybor City Local Historic District and National Landmark District, the Ybor City Museum State Park contains almost an acre of land that encompasses more than half of a city block within the Ybor City Historic District. The park site includes the circa 1923 Ferlita Bakery Building, a non-historic ornamental courtyard, 6 relocated historic worker houses known as casitas, which were moved to the site in the 1980s, and also a circa 1920s bungalow that was relocated in 2003 as part of the Interstate 4 expansion project. You see the aerial here showing the location just off of Palm Avenue between Angel Oliva Senior Street and 19th Street. It's just to the north of Centennial Park as a point of reference. This is the Sanborn map, which obviously we rely upon greatly and really came to be valuable in this particular instance. It's from 1931. The Sanborn Company map from the Historic Districts period between 1886 and 1940 shows the development pattern in Ybor City, providing insight into how the historic streetscape appeared. Prior to the 1968 raising of a majority of the block, it was filled with residential and commercial structures, as well as mixed-use structures. And you see the Marcelino Perez Cigar Factory building just to the northeast corner of the block, and that'll come into focus in just a moment. Today, the block contains 9 buildings, all of which are contributing to the local Ybor City Historic District. This includes the Oliva Tobacco Factory, which is in that previous cigar factory that I mentioned, which remains on the original site. The Ferlita Bakery Building, also in its original location, and which houses the main state museum. Bungalows at 1820 East 9th Avenue, which serves as a gift shop and an exhibition space. Following the relocation from 1209 East 13th Avenue in 2003, it was redesignated as a contributing structure to the locally designated historic district. The Historic Preservation Commission also went back and doing its research and redesignated the entire block, which had previously not been designated after the various moves. By the early 1970s, Ybor City Urban Renewal Project had raised all but 2 of the original structures on this block. The Oliva Cigar Factory Building, 2008 North 19th Street, and the Ferlita Bakery Building, 1818 East 9th Street, were all that remained. With these 2 significant structures remaining, this block was included in the 1974 listing of the Ybor City Historic District in the National Register of Historic Places. From 1984 to 1986, the Historic Tampa Hillsborough County Preservation Board, Preservation Inc. of Tampa, and the Ybor City Museum Society, along with the City of Tampa and the Florida Department of Natural Resources, worked together to relocate 6 historic houses and restore them for reuse as part of the overall development of the Ybor City Museum State Park. The relocation site for these structures, known as Preservation Park, was at the west end of the block, bounded by 9th Avenue on the south, Palm Avenue on the north, Angel Oliva Senior Street on the west, and 19th Street on the east. See some of the publications that were a great deal of excitement about not only bringing the State Museum to the site, but also the preservation of the Ferlita Bakery Building, which was an iconic building in the area. The Florida Department of Natural Resources acquired and rehabilitated the bakery for reuse as the main museum, and the Ybor City State Museum opened in 1980. The department also constructed a Spanish-style courtyard adjacent to the museum, which still remains today and is a great venue for events and gatherings. From 1984 to 1986, the historic Tampa Hillsborough County Preservation Board and the various parties involved in advocating for the preservation of the site decided to relocate 6 historic casitas and restore them for use as part of the overall redevelopment of Preservation Park. 3 buildings were relocated from 1514, 1516, and 1518 East 5th Avenue to 1800, 1802, and 1804 East 9th Avenue in 1985. They were constructed in the 1890s as part of a group of 6 nearly identical shotgun houses closely together facing south on a 170-foot wide lot. The shotgun houses are rectangular in plan, 1 room wide and 3 to 4 rooms deep. The narrow plan allowed for structures to be built on narrow lots, for multiple structures to be built on 1 lot. These buildings were relocated in the same grouping and with the same orientation and thereafter rehabilitated. Originally located in 1911 East 11th Avenue, 1805 North 23rd Street, and 1520 East 4th Avenue in Ybor City, 3 workers' houses were moved to 2007, 2009, and 2011 Angel Oliva Senior Street, respectively, by Tampa Preservation, Inc., and adaptively restored for office uses by the Preservation Board. These 3 former residences vary in plan and date of construction, and as such represent the changes seen in the vernacular housing of Ybor City during the early 20th century. New brick pier foundations were installed at the relocated sites in 1984 and 1985, and thereafter the buildings were rehabilitated and adaptively adjusted for office uses. The various treatments which were applied, obviously these were very detailed preservation initiatives, and so the preservation standards under the Secretary of the Interior were applied. They addressed, the treatments addressed 4 treatments, are addressed with 4 phases of preservation. That's preservation, rehabilitation, restoration, and reconstruction. The 2016 Ybor City State Management Plan states that the casitas used for tours is identified for interpretation and therefore is managed using restoration as its treatment approach. The other casitas, which are used for offices, are approached with the preservation treatment. The significance applied when designating these particular structures as a group were criterion A in the area of commerce, industry, entertainment, recreation, ethnic heritage, and social history, and criterion C in the area of architecture and community planning and development. And those are 2 of the criteria which apply to the Ybor City District as a whole. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you. One last point of business before we move on. I do have the ARC February staff approvals to enter into the record. Those will be provided to the clerk, and we can make a motion at the end of the meeting to accept that along with any other documents that we collect. With that, we'll move on to the conflicts of interest and ex parte communication disclosure, and I'll ask Ms. Crosby Collier to handle that portion.
Good evening again. Dana Crosby Collier from the City Attorney's Office. This evening, I'd like to ask if a member of the commission has a conflict of interest with any item on the agenda tonight.
I just want the record to reflect, I do know owners and residents at 909 South Rome, which is a case on the agenda this evening. I've had no communication with them about this matter, and I don't believe there's any reason I wouldn't be able to make a objective, unbiased decision.
Okay, that's fine. And on that note, has any other member engaged in any ex parte communication with regard to any item on the agenda this evening?
I have not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to continuations. We have one continuation for ARC 24-0000-312 for the property located at 711 North Franklin Street. That case has been continued several times. It's unable to be continued to a specific date, so I request that you continue to the future with the requirement that the applicant renotice in accordance with 27149.
I move that ARC 24-0000-312 at 711 North Franklin Street be continued to an unknown future public hearing as long as the applicant renotices in accordance with Section 27149 of the City of Tampa Code of Ordinances.
Second.
All right, we have a second. Any discussion? Not seeing any. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you. With that, we're ready for the swearing. Anyone who is going to be presenting or providing any sort of testimony or public comment this evening, if you would please stand and raise your right hand, including staff.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you'll be providing today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated.
With that, Commissioners, we're ready for our first case. It is ARC 24-0000-273/TA CPA 24-11. This is a comprehensive plan amendment request, moving from the R35 category to the CMU 35 category. Helping me with this particular request this evening is Danny Collins with the Hillsborough County Planning Commission staff and Samuel Thomas with the City of Tampa Development Coordination. I'll begin by giving a photo essay. This will be a little extended because we are dealing with a larger site. On the monitor, you see the subject site. It's an entire block. I'm going to zoom in. This is obviously Bayshore Boulevard here, and this is Magnolia Avenue, which is immediately to the east. Zooming in on that aerial, this gives you a little bit better idea of the site. As I said, Magnolia is on the east. Swan Avenue is on the south. As you come in off Bayshore, you're presented usually with Swan Avenue. You can go north on Magnolia as well. Brevard Avenue is to the west, and Bay Street is to the north. This is, the request is for the entire block. The block contains a number of non-contributing structures and one contributing structure. Just for your reference, this is a subject site in the boundaries of the Ybor City Historic District. You see that the Historic District boundaries do jog in this area, so there are going to be portions of the abutting properties that are in the district and others that are not. This is the 1929 Sanborn map, once again showing the subject area and some of the development that existed at that particular time, mainly residential in nature. So beginning at the southeast corner of Swan and Magnolia, this is Swan, and then Magnolia goes here to the right. This is a non-contributing building, serves as a law office. I'm going to go essentially clockwise around the site. Continuing towards the west, see that non-contributing structure. As you move beyond the structure, there's a parking lot. One entry here and a second entry a little bit further west. Bay and Brevard. It's a street shot of Bay with a view to the west, and then turning around, looking back towards the east, which the subject block is here on your right. Bay, Magnolia in the background. Back to the subject site on that corner, as we saw the side, now we're seeing the front of this non-contributing structure on Bay Street. Moving back towards the east, another non-contributing structure. And continuing down that roadway on the subject site. We have another parking lot. A little bit further towards the corner, we have a non-contributing commercial building. This is Magnolia beyond the stop sign, and this large building is outside the district, housed the Bank of Tampa, and that's on Magnolia. Back at that corner of Magnolia and Bay, you see that large building that I was referring to? The district boundary goes north and south at the center line of this roadway, and this is a subject site with a series of non-contributing structures. I'll show you a photo to capture that. This is the back of that commercial structure that I showed, another non-contributing structure, and then moving back towards that law office where I commenced the photo essay at. This is the large building that's outside the district, and then another shot of that from Bay Shore and Swan. So with that, I'm going to ask Mr. Collins to come up and give you a briefing on the plan request and the action at the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Danny Collins. I'm with the Planning Commission staff. Today I'll be presenting TACPA 2411, and I know Dennis did a good job going over the surrounding area of the subject site. This request is for multiple folios located at the northwest corner of West Swan Avenue and South Magnolia Avenue. This is a comprehensive plan amendment, so you're approving a land use change, essentially. We're not approving, you're recommending approval. The request is privately initiated. It's small scale in size. The subject site's approximately 2.05 acres. And the request is to change the future land use category from the residential 35 designation to the community mixed use 35 designation. The subject site's located in the Central Tampa Planning District. It's within the Hyde Park Urban Village. Specifically, it's in the Hyde Park Spanish Town Creek neighborhood. It's also within the local and national Hyde Park historic districts, and a majority of the subject site is within the coastal high hazard area. And it is shown here on our map. Here is an aerial map of the subject site and the surrounding properties. You'll see the subject site. It's outlined in this yellow color. It's at the northwest corner of South Magnolia Avenue and West Swan Avenue. This is Bayshore Boulevard here. Directly to the east of the subject site is the Bank of Tampa building. This is approximately 9 stories in height. Directly south of the site, we have some townhome developments. And then west of the site, we have a single-family detached neighborhood. West of the site and north of the site, we have a mixture of non-residential uses, a lot of those being office-type uses. I'll kind of go over these, walk you around the area of the subject site quickly. This is looking at the subject site from West Swan Avenue. Currently, it's an office building. This is looking west along Swan Avenue. Subject site is on our right. This is looking north from the intersection of South Magnolia Avenue and West Swan Avenue. This is the subject site here. This is the Bank of Tampa building. This is looking at the townhomes that are located directly south of the subject site on West Swan Avenue. This is looking east along West Bay Street. Subject site is on our right over here. This is looking at some of the office uses that are present along West Bay Street. And this is looking at the Bank of Tampa building, which is adjacent to the east of the subject site. Again, that building is approximately 9 stories. So again, the adopted future land use of the subject site is residential 35. So that category is to the north and west of the subject site. Essentially, that category allows medium-density residential development, typically up to 35 dwelling units per acre. It allows anything from single-family attached townhome type uses to multifamily uses. Directly to the south of the site, we have residential 20. That's where those townhomes are located. That's a less denser category, allows 20 dwelling units per acre. And then this tan color West of the subject site is recognized is the residential 10 designation. So that allows, low density residential uses, single family detached, up to 10 dwelling units per acre. Directly to the east of the site is land recognized under the CMU 35 designation, so the community mixed use 35 category. That is what the applicant is proposing. That category allows development up to 35 dwelling units per acre or up to a 2.0 FAR. It would allow for a range of uses, anything from townhomes, multifamily residential uses to commercial general type uses. And then approximately one block north and to the east of the subject site, we have parcels recognized under the residential 83 category. So that allows high density residential up to 83 dwelling units per acre here. And then we have some land here recognized under the public, semi-public designation. So again, the applicant is proposing the community mixed use 35 designation. So again, that's the same designation that is directly to the east of the subject site. So this would essentially allow, introduce the potential of commercial general uses on the subject site. It would significantly increase the FAR of the subject site and also enable the applicant to utilize floor area ratio for, residential uses on the subject site. Here is a slide showing the potential impacts of the proposed change. So currently under the residential 35 designation, the subject site can be considered for a maximum of 71 dwelling units or approximately 53,578 square feet of non-residential uses. Those non-residential uses would be limited to neighborhood commercial type uses, residential offices, and they would have to meet locational criteria to be considered. As proposed under the CMU 35 designation, the subject site can be considered for 71 dwelling units or approximately 178,596 square feet of residential or non-residential uses. So again, those uses could be anything from multifamily, townhomes, anywhere to those up to commercial general type uses. So essentially, this request has the potential to introduce commercial general uses on the subject site while significantly increasing the residential and non-residential intensity that can be considered on the site. We sent this off to our reviewing agencies. The City of Tampa objected to the request. Those comments are in your staff report packet, and I believe Dennis transmitted those to you. This went to the Planning Commission on November 18th of last year. And overall, they found it inconsistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan. They found it inconsistent with policies that seek to provide a transition between high and low density intensity areas. So again, your transition from the CMU 35, that's east of Magnolia, west to the residential 35. They felt that the residential 35 provided a good transition, as well as to the residential 10 that is located southwest of the subject site, and the R20 that is to the south. They found it inconsistent with policies that regarding massing and scale. So this would significantly increase the intensity that can be considered on the subject site from a 0.6 FAR up to a 2.0 FAR. And then finally, they found it inconsistent with policies that seek to direct population growth away from the coastal hazard area. This request has the potential of significantly increasing the number of units within the coastal hazard area. Again, this would allow the applicant to utilize FAR up to a 2.0 in the coastal hazard area on the subject site if it were to be approved. Based on those considerations, the Planning Commission recommended that the proposed map amendment be found inconsistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. Prior to inviting the applicant's agent up for his presentation, I wanted just to call your attention to page 3 of the staff report, particularly to the applicable City of Tampa Code of Ordinances. This is where you need to focus your consideration of a determination this evening. And the code directs the commission with regard to applications for rezoning changes to land use classifications, or comprehensive plan amendments, your duty is to review and recommend reasonable land use changes to the extent necessary to preserve the historical integrity and appearance of the locally designated resource, in this case, of a district, in accordance with the applicable design standards. So with that, I'll ask Mr. Gardner to begin his presentation.
Good evening, Truett Gardner, 400 North Ashley Drive, Gardner Brewer Hudson Law Firm. And with me tonight is Addie Clark, who works with me at Gardner Brewer Hudson, and then also Stephen Smith of Cooper Johnson Smith, who's the project architect. And our client is the Schlesinger family, really neat family, and lives in Palm Beach, has multifamily holdings in the Northeast, many in Tampa in the Historic District, as well as Palm Beach. And then most notably, as it relates to this project, they're the owner and the operator of the Brazilian Court Hotel in Palm Beach, which is in a historic district, and that's the passion behind this project, and that's why we're in front of you tonight. Our request, and I know there's been a lot already, and we're going to try to keep our presentation as tight as possible. We're going to cover a lot of ground. But again, when you distill this all down, the reason we're in front of you tonight is to ask for the ability to ask for hotel as a permitted use. And then with respect to the two primary objections, one on the potential densification of the site, I'll call it, and then the other on developing in the coastal high hazard area, wanted to let you know we'll be addressing both of those concerns. Then you've seen plenty of aerials already, but on this one, I just wanted to note, the site is just over 2 acres, obviously hard to put together in a historic district, so very rare that it has been assembled. And then in the southwest segment is the historic structure, which Dennis showed you. Wanted to assure you straight up from the beginning that that historic structure will be preserved and improved in its current location. And then the other thing I just wanted to point out is, again, that location at the corner of, or really the intersection of Bayshore, Magnolia, and Swan. This is really what we view as the gateway to the district, which I think lends itself to this request. And then on this site, I know you've got the full photo essay, but really just wanted to point out a couple things with relation to it. First, the majority of the buildings, with the exception of the one structure which will remain and be preserved in place, were all developed pre-ARC, obviously non-conforming, and this site is just absolutely ripe for development. And then in addition to that, we show you one in the bottom right-hand corner, but it's chock full of these surface lots that were constructed pre-code, and so done without any sort of regard to stormwater collection at all. And then on this, really just wanted to lay out what we want to cover tonight. The purpose of the hearing, again, is to explain we're in comprehensive plan mode now, so what that means. And then also, as we've socialized this project, primary concerns we've heard relate to stormwater and traffic. We're going to touch on those. And then lastly, the potential vision, given that y'all are the ARC, very into the look and feel of things, even though not required, wanted to at least have Stephen give a nod to what it is that we're thinking about pursuing. And then this slide's a long winding road, but thought it would be helpful to point this out to you. We are on the far left. You can see where it says ARC. Red deals with the comprehensive plan amendment. Green deals with the PD rezoning, which we've already filed. And then blue is the alley vacating. On that alley vacating, just so you know, in this block, on the kind of mid-block spanning east to west, the entire east side has already been vacated. Property appraiser's map actually just shows a little stub on the far west portion, but our title work uncovered that the western half has not been vacated, so we're going to be pursuing a vacating along with the rezoning request. But the main thing I wanted to point out on this slide is if you go all the way to where red, green, and blue are stacked, is ultimately, should we proceed, this will go to City Council. You guys will actually review as a body and provide a recommendation on the rezoning. that rezoning is going to provide really the nuts and bolts of what this development is, what our conditions are, setbacks, height, things of that nature. So wanted to assure you that you are not, by giving a recommendation tonight, should you be so inclined, you're not giving carte blanche approval for this project. Instead, we're going to be back with that site plan, and that's going to be really the nuts and bolts of what we're requesting. And then, really what we're doing here is changing the color of a map. On the left is our current R35 designation, and then on the right is what we would go to in pink, which is the CMU 35. And of note here in particular is that CMU 35 is the category that is the least intensive that allows for that hotel use. So that's the nature of the request. Outside of, you can see how there's other CMU 35 properties to the east, and then that's also a district further to the west within the Hyde Park Historic District. And then this is really a nod to what I was telling you before, that the change to this future land use category has no effect on the historical integrity. That's going to be in that PD document. And then on this slide, you can see R35, then the green check boxes below that, and it's showing that we cannot request hotel, and then the CMU 35, which shows our ability to request hotel, again, the nature of our request. Then as far as the density issue that Sam mentioned, and I think as he mentioned, the site under its current R35 designation could be requested for up to 71 multifamily units today. What's interesting about this, and I'll cover in the next slide, is that that density does not control the size of the building, only the units per acre. So those units could be as large, totally unrestricted in size, but to break that down for you, and this slide's a little bit hard to understand, but I think I can unpack it for you. What we're proposing is a building totaling 176,000 square feet. And so if you took that square footage, the 176,000, and you divided that by the 71 units that it's allowed, you equal an average unit size of less than 2,500 square feet, which we think is market, something unreasonable. And I just didn't want to tell you that, no, you're not restricted by size, but that size is 10,000 square feet per unit. It's something that is reasonable. So from an overall size standpoint, what we're requesting is of a similar density to if this site was developed under its current R35 designation. And then last slide for me, since the inception of this back in November, we have gone on a full talking tour, starting with a kickoff meeting with the 3 affected associations, Spanish Town Creek, HPPI, HHP&A. In December, we met with HHP&I's board, and then we've had community meetings, including with the residents immediately across the street. And then just last week, we had another follow-up meeting with those same 3 associations as well as some other residents. And outside of that, we've had numerous other calls and meetings, and so our outreach has been complete, and I think it's paid some dividends, which hopefully you should hear tonight. And with that, I'll turn things over to Addie to address stormwater and traffic, as I mentioned, 2 of the big concerns that we've had. And then lastly, Stephen Smith on the vision and the request for this use. So thank you for your time, and much appreciated.
Good evening, Addie Clark, 400 North Ashley Drive. And so again, the coastal high hazard area we know is a concern here, but the concern is based on the fact that Planning Commission doesn't want to increase permanent population, especially in this area. That has seen a lot of detrimental situations, especially in the past year or so. The proposed comp plan amendment and the accompanying PD, as Truett mentioned, would actually lessen the permanent population in this location, going from the 71 units that are currently allowed, as you saw, to 29 dwelling units, which is what the PD will propose. And again, as those will all meet up in the future, where that green, blue, and red tax will all stack up and meet at City Council. And so today, in terms of stormwater, there really is just this one tiny antiquated curb inlet that exists at the corner of Swan and Magnolia, you can see here in this picture, that currently takes all of the water from the site, so those parking lots as well as the street, and it really is just sheeting that water into this very, very small curb inlet. And this redevelopment would actually be an improvement to what is there today, as it would include large underground detention vaults that store and manage stormwater runoff appropriately. And this graphic is just an example of how an underground vault operates, with it collecting stormwater, storing it, and then slowly releasing it back into the system. And this is so important, again, as stormwater is slowly released rather than discharging immediately out into the system as it does today. And then in terms of traffic, we understand that traffic is definitely a concern in this area. However, we believe a hotel is even a more appropriate use at this location, off of a major collector, which is Swan, and off of an arterial roadway, which is Bayshore. And then again, a hotel doesn't typically operate in line with general peak traffic flows that you see with Gorey Elementary and Wilson Middle School here. And in speaking with the neighbors, we understand that the school traffic is definitely a concern. So we took a look at their bell schedule as comparison with typical hotel check-in and check-out. And that hotel check-in and check-out falls well outside of those peak arrival and dismissal times for school. So here in orange and gray is just kind of a graphic of what I showed on the previous slide. Orange and gray are the hourly traffic distributions for the schools. And you can see with any school, as we know, there are significant peak drop-off times in the morning. And you can see in blue here, a hotel has a much more even and smooth hourly distribution throughout the day. And this is all according to ITE, Institute of Transportation Engineers, hourly distribution data. And then same situation for the afternoon peak hours. So you can see again in blue that hotel distribution is much more smooth and doesn't have those major peaks like a school would or residential. And so a completely residential block, which would be allowed today, would only exacerbate these peaks in traffic, whereas a hotel traffic is much more balanced and distributed. With that, I'll pass it over to Drew again.
Just one more slide here for me. One other topic related to transportation is traffic flow. And on Swan, there are currently 4 points of ingress and egress. As you'll see there, we've shrunk that down to one, which is next to and serves as a buffer to the historic structure. And that will be used primarily, the purpose of that building going forward will be their leasing office for their multifamily holdings. And then also that'll serve as a drop-off and pickup location for special events. Will not have garage access. The primary point of ingress and egress for the hotel and restaurants will be along Magnolia. And in talking, one of the concerns that we've heard is cut-through traffic on Swan. If you were to leave here, go north, not an issue at all. You're going outside of the district, and easy distribution to the north. But that concern is south. And so what we're proposing to do, and is already in our PD document, is to force that traffic to turn north and then go immediately right on Bay. When you go down Bay, there's a dedicated lane that takes you directly to Bayshore, so thus alleviating the need to go west on Swan and then filter your way through one of the historic neighborhood streets to get to Bayshore. And then on the north side, I think as Sam or Dennis mentioned, primarily that's commercial, so we thought that was the appropriate place for loading and solid waste. And then also will be the exit point if you're valet parking for your valets to be able to run around and then pick you up on Magnolia, as well as we've got just a handful, 29, I think, total residents, and that would be their primary point of ingress and egress. So just wanted to kind of walk you through on traffic flow, and with that, I'll turn things over to Mr. Smith.
Turn it real quick, is that how you?
That's advanced, yeah.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Commissioners. Stephen Smith, Cooper Johnson Smith Peterson Architects. It's a pleasure to come before you and be with a team that's proposing a boutique hotel project. It's my personal favorite among mixed-use projects. To me, they're the most benevolent and lovable of building types. Hotels are places where we go and we celebrate special occasions. It's where our family and friends come when they stay in town. And what's important about this one is that it will be the only actual public place where we can get together on Bayshore and have views of Tampa's greatest amenity. It's hard to believe we don't have a single restaurant that fronts Bayshore, I guess since the Colonnade closed. And really, everything is privatized. You either have to be in an office, you have to be in a house, or you have to be renting or owning something in a multifamily building. So it's a wonderful opportunity. I wanted to, let's see, can I go back? Yeah, go back to the site concept. And I should call it a concept because we're so early on. But we don't have to bring something like this before you guys, but it's so important that we at least give a feel for what's being thought of in terms of form and program. So quickly, I'll go through some of the thoughts about the program at this point. As it's been mentioned, it's 176,000 feet, similar to what we would have in R35. And what we're proposing is a hotel that's 122 rooms. As was mentioned, there would be 29 residential units. 9 of those would be townhouses, and 21 would be more conventional condominium units. It's right now thought to have 2 restaurants, a smaller one that might be 100 seat, a larger one at 200 seats. It sits atop a garage base with one of its floors that's partially into the ground because the site is unusual. It slopes about 7 to 8 feet diagonally across it. So it's a 3-story garage, but only 2 and a little bit are above ground. And then we have 4 stories of hotel and condo on top of that, with all of that built around a landscape courtyard, which you can see in the center. Much like historic building types that were generally were thin because of natural light and ventilation, it's essentially a donut around a courtyard. We have color on this diagram because we want to show you what we're thinking about in terms of number of stories and its massing. And we're feeling like it's very important that this building steps down when it gets close to the street, public right-of-way. So the lightest colors, and looking at it along Swan, there's 2 stories of townhouses that we're thinking about right there that would align with the historic bungalow to the west. We're thinking that access would be from the street, so they would have stairs that go to small porches, and that's how folks would come and go from those units. Over on the Magnolia side, I wanted to say also, they're set back about 37 feet from the sidewalk to where the building then goes to 6 stories. Also along Magnolia, we wanted to have a similar setback. So we're about 30 feet from inside of the sidewalk, the property line, back to where, again, the building goes to its 6 stories. And in that area along Magnolia, where we're showing a 2- and 3-story element, that's the porte cochere of the covered arrivals area. And you can see with the curb cuts and the arrows, this is how you would arrive. You'd hand your car to a valet and come into the lobby at that point. So in the area right directly to the left of that, that's where the hotel lobby would be. That's where the restaurant and the lounge and bar area would be. I think Truett had mentioned how the circulation works, and important to mention again, you would come in on the north side, drive through, it would be taken by valet, then go into the garage there at the southern part of this drawing. And then upon exiting, there would be a curb cut that would direct you heading north. Again, we know that intersection of Swan and Bayshore is dysfunctional in lots of ways. We've heard it from the neighbors, and so we're trying to direct all traffic away from that location. As we move to the Bay Street side, again, a 2-story element lines that face and lines Bay Street. We're back about 27 feet from the sidewalk to where we would have our 6 stories. And and I want to mention that really in every face of this building, we're concealing the parking with program, except for a bit along Bay Street, about 8 spaces don't have any additional program in front of them, but they will be fenestrated as if they are storefront businesses in that location. Moving a bit further to the west, you see the loading and solid waste area. Again, hearing concerns of the neighbors, we needed to have a sizable facility there. We're thinking we can have loading for 2 loading vehicles that can be completely off of West Bay Street when they're doing that. Hyde Park Village, just by the nature of how it developed, has probably left a bad taste in everyone's mouth because loading for the most part probably happens in the street and causes congestion there. And then to the right of that is where the solid waste would be, with being able to, again, get all of those vehicles completely off of the street. Over on this west side, you'll see a 5-story element that pops up with a small area to 6 stories. This is being thought of as where the amenity part of the project would be, and thinking that we would break down the architecture to look like a building that was built over time at a different time there. So different expression to help break down the project. We're thinking that would be, it would have a lobby, it would have a spa and gym, it would have a medium-sized ballroom, one for 220 seats, and then there would be a club room on top of that, and then on its rooftop would be the pool for the hotel. Back over to the east side, the area where the porte cochere is, on top of that area, you see the darkest of the colors, and that's a 7-story element that is only about 800 square feet. That would be a small club room for the condominium, and there's a small residential size pool thought of to be up there. You wouldn't see that 7 stories from the street. Wanted to mention the bungalow. We will want to continue to try to stay as far away from it as possible, leave it in an area with existing trees that it has now, and in a bit of a preserve the scale of the site that it is on right now. Right now, there's the thinking for a drop-off that would be for that more of the amenity side of the project. And in terms of setbacks, we're about 54 feet from the 2-story townhouses to the front porch of that structure. And then as you move back, about 37 feet, and then it's from its north face to the south face of the lobby entrance, about 47 feet. So trying to give it a great deal of breathing space there. Okay, wanting to remind everyone that immediately across the street, we've got, it's actually 10 stories, is the Bank of Tampa building. So we would be stepping down from the massing of that 10-story structure to our 6-story structure with the small 7-story element. We wanted to show these streetscape massing diagrams, really just to show you the strategy that we're going to take with that stepping back that I mentioned. On the left, this is what's allowed today, the 71 dwelling units, with the pressures that would be on the site with the program likely to occur under that zoning, they're likely to push out to really all of the property lines. And so I think with being able to have our CMU 35, we'll be able to have a little bit more flexibility in terms of height so we can step our building back to make sense in the neighborhood. So on the right, you're seeing those townhouses with their individual steps and porches, and again, 2 stories over a base that gets smaller as you go up one, and then pushed back the 24 feet. Looking the other way from the bungalow, on the left, again, what likely would happen under today's zoning, and then on the right, the ability to, again, align with the bungalow and then step back before we go a little bit more vertical there. Wanted to show you some examples, some precedent in the neighborhood. This is on Boulevard. This is the Allegro. It's the ALF structure. It's very similar in size. It's 150,000 feet versus our 176,000. And it's in the it's in the 6-story range, and then it does step down to a 4-story element on each end of it. Its max building height is around 92 feet. We would be in that vicinity as, so a similar massing and scale of this project. The Valencia, a building that's right in the core, right in the center of Hyde Park Village. It's right there at Rome and Pond Park. It is 7 stories and is fairly blocky in nature. We would be proposing something that breaks down a bit more, but just showing that, you know, a 7-story building integrates into the neighborhood alongside 3-story condominiums and 2-story residences. Oops, let's go back there. On the right, our favorite example, it's the Seville Apartments. That's at Dakota and Morrison. And it's probably the greatest example of how you have a traditional mixed-use neighborhood where buildings of different building typology get along well together if they're speaking the same language. So the Seville is 6 stories over a basement that's exposed, but it's roughly 15 feet from the Seville to the 2-story residence to the south in this case. But because they're speaking the same language, window proportions, architectural detailing that is similar in nature, they get along well. On the left-hand side is the DeSoto building. It's at the corner of Deacle and DeSoto near Howard Avenue. And it is a 4 to 6-story massing. And immediately to the right is a 2-story 4-pack apartment building, historic apartment building, and then residences next to that. I believe they're about 10 feet apart in that case. Behind it is a parking lot right now, but originally there were 2-story apartments and then houses. Lastly, I wanted to pull up just the hotel typology again in historic buildings and in the history of Tampa. On the left-hand side is the Bayshore Royal Hotel, which is now the Bayshore Royal Condominiums. It's at the corner of Bayshore and Howard, and it's been altered so many times and disfigured, it's hard to recognize today. And then on the right is the Mirasol on Davis Island. Both these Mirasols is currently apartments, so both originally were built as hotels. And I should have mentioned first that, you know, probably the most wonderful hotel, 1891, was Tampa Bay Hotel, that literally put Tampa on the map. So we have a tradition of these sort of, you know, grand, lovable buildings. The Bayshore Royal is 10 stories. Mirasol is 7. Both of them are integrated into neighborhoods with 2-story apartment buildings and residences nearby. In this postcard of the Bayshore Royal, you can look back and see a 2-story apartment building immediately behind it. And today, the DeSoto apartment building is about 70 feet from it, still standing. And then, no doubt, there were houses surrounding those as well. You know, just again, one thing I can think about here in terms of the comp plan. It's, you know, it's colors on a map like that can't be nuanced just by the nature of how they're developed and put together. And I would believe that if we had that chance to create that sort of detail in a comp plan, that we would have a site that would allow a boutique hotel. One last thing has to do with something like the Epicurean Hotel. I want to bring that up, that the Epicurean is a third again the size of what we're proposing. It's 188 rooms. It has a 375 car garage, and it is accommodating about 450 seats of restaurant when you take in Burns, which parks in the garages that's part of the project. I bring it up because I live about a half a mile from the Epicurean and take Howard all the time wherever I go, and I've never sat in traffic there with all of the events, all of Burns, all of the hotel. So again, it's kind of the magic of the hotel type. So thank you for listening.
And that concludes our presentation. So happy to answer any questions and you may have.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Once again, Dennis Fernandez, Architects Review and Historic Preservation Manager. We will move into public comment in just a moment. I wanted to let you know, make you aware that there are 5 letters in your packets that are going to be also entered into the record, and that Mr. Thomas and Mr. Collins, as I said, are here for you, and also Evan Johnson with City Planning is in the audience as well if you have questions. Related to the staff findings, the request, the staff determination is the request is inconsistent with the City of Tampa Code ordinances, Chapter 27A2J, per the plans that were submitted. The requested amendment from R35 to CMU would provide development entitlements that are inconsistent with the historic development patterns in this portion of the Hyde Park Historic District. The resulting transition would not be compatible to the existing neighborhood and would not preserve the historical integrity and appearance of the historic district. Additionally, the contributing structure located at 611 West Swan Avenue would be subject to direct inverse impacts by adjacent development at levels of density and intensity allowed under CMU 35. The staff believes that if approved, the request change in land use classification has the potential to have an adverse effect on the Hyde Park Historic District, given the maximum development potential of the requested land use category, the ability to incorporate a new development project within the historic district that is consistent with the Hyde Park design guidelines is unlikely. For the reasons stated, the staff finds the request inconsistent with the section of the code that you will utilize to determine compatibility. Thank you, and as I said, we are here for any questions that you may have.
Great, thank you, Dennis. Okay, now we're at the point where we have public comment. Is there anyone in the audience to speak for or against this project? You'll come up and state your name one at a time. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Commissioner and ARC members. My name is Dr. Michael Pobat, and I live at 345 Bayshore Boulevard, and I'm the president of the historic Hyde Park Spanish Town Creek Civic Association, where this building is proposed. The Hyde Park Spanish Town Creek Board voted to ask the Commission to not recommend City Council adopt the plan amendment for CPA 24-11, ARC 24273, located at the northwest corner of West Swan Avenue and South Magnolia Avenue, to change from R35 to CM35 for the following reasons. The parcel is within the historic Hyde Park Local Historic District, surrounded by light commercial, office spaces, and a mix of single-family and multifamily residences. The proposal would allow more intense use that will negatively impact the area's historic character, which we just received a couple years ago. The proposed development plans do not align with the historic guidelines in terms of height, mass, scale, and density, and it saddens me to see our history chipped away. Spanish Town Creek is considered the genesis of Tampa, with the first non-native people residing in this area in the late 1700s prior to Fort Brooke. The parcel is located in a coastal high-hazard area, raising evacuation safety concerns, not just water collection and flooding issues. Lastly, and most importantly, the parcel is located by schools, raising safety concerns related to transient traffic by visitors not from our area, in addition to the narrow brick streets in the area and the awkward traffic pattern in the immediate area. The Hyde Park Spanish Town Creek Civic Association Board requests that you deny this amendment and recommend it not be adopted by City Council, as it is inconsistent with the comprehensive plan and has major concerns not only by the residents in the immediate area, but by the several miles away folks who will be impacted by traffic, delivery trucks, and pedestrian safety. Thank you for the privilege of your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Keith Grimminger. I live at 711 South Fielding, 2 blocks away from the site. I'm an architect and urban planner. And I believe this development offers the perfect opportunity for this transition that everyone is talking about. The current site offers no real amenities to the Hyde Park district, and it does serve as a gateway. But we have to also remember the gateway goes both ways. It's a gateway into the historic district, but it's also a gateway into the urban fringe. And right across the street from this development is a 9-story bank building. This transition is stepping down, offers all those amenities. And it's from a transportation standpoint, this is a transportation node at the intersection of Bayshore Boulevard and Swan. So the traffic aspects, and they went through that earlier, offer really no impact to that because it does exit out to the east and to the north. The opportunity, and I have all the confidence in the world in Stephen Smith and his firm, that the aesthetic will basically blend in to the historic neighborhood. The townhomes across the street do not contribute. The site itself do not contribute. And the opportunity for this development to add life and character to this edge of the community is I think, a necessary thing. It is that edge. It's that edge district between the historic district and the urban fringe. So this transition, I believe, makes all the sense in the world. I think from what I have seen so far, they're doing all the correct things. They're preserving the single contributing structure on the property and have given a lot of thought to egress and ingress from a pedestrian and vehicular standpoint. Again, the lines on the maps and the colors on the maps are in 2D. I think what they're demonstrating from a 3D standpoint, a third dimension, the aesthetic is the right appropriate transition from the urban fringe and the historic district. So I would encourage you to consider this for adoption. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy Durden, 1820 West Richardson Place. I'm speaking as president of Tampa Regional Artists, which operates the old Hyde Park Art Center at 705 West Swan Avenue in the block immediately west of the subject property. We are a one-room schoolhouse, 1,100 square feet, and a contributing structure in the historic district. We operate classes from 9 to 9 during weekdays and during the day on weekends. We have very limited dedicated parking, so we are highly dependent upon the parking available on the neighboring streets on Swan, as well as Brevard and Bay Street. Our people then get out of their cars and walk to our facility. Over the past year, we have engaged in significant efforts with City Mobility to improve the traffic calming on Swan, narrowing Swan Avenue, creating a bike lane, and preserving our limited parking available. We are concerned that increasing the density and intensity would undermine all that we have achieved in the past year to significantly calm traffic on Swan, and it would negatively impact public safety for pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorists. The surrounding streets are relatively narrow and not designed for the amount of traffic that this development would bring, as well as potentially infringe on our already limited parking in the area. So we hope that you will consider the impact that this large facility would have on a very fragile infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, my name is Bob Kelly. I live at 703 South Brevard Avenue, directly across the street. You know, every time I come to these meetings, it seems for me, it's getting worse and worse. Now I see that, you know, we all know that's the flooding that goes on around there, and the parking is like totally unbelievable. Now I'm seeing that across the street, which they made the thing that, oh, we're gonna save this historic house, but we're gonna put a nice little loop around there and the next wide driveway, and we're gonna have a nice big event center, you know, 30 feet behind it. And so it's like, whoa, wait a minute here. Now we went from trying to sneak in like a boutique hotel to 2 restaurants now, which is really disguised for another event center, which valet parking. I just can imagine the traffic when they have an event. Just go to look at the JCC. I'm a member there, and when they have events, they're parked all over the place. They're parked on Howard Avenue, they're parked on the grass, they're parked everywhere, and we gotta go in there, we gotta park certain places. It's just, they don't have enough parking. You know, you seem like they're trying to squeeze in parking for their boutique hotel, and maybe you got your workers, you got your food deliveries. I don't care if you have restaurants or not, you're still gonna have people, you know, too cheap to buy the restaurant food or just wanna pick up an Uber. We got great restaurants in the area. They're gonna have Uber deliveries there all night long. They're gonna be taking parking spaces, running in the building. Nobody's gonna sit there and go take their car in for a short term and have the valet do it and have to pay for that. They just ain't gonna do it, you know what I mean? So it's just like, you know, the whole thing that really bothers me the most about this is, you know, we got a nice, peaceful, walkable. Walkable is a big thing these days, walkable neighborhood. People walk their dogs, and, you know, on the weekends, even though that area is right directly across the street, it's still office. Maximum they can do there is office. Office is very quiet. It's quiet in the evenings. It's quiet like during the weekends especially. It's very peaceful. We're turning this into the weekends. Forget it. It's going to be like Hyde Park down there, man. You know, everywhere around there, the parking's going to be people are trying to park everywhere. You know, it's just the whole thing that's bothering me most seems to be this commercial node. You know, I could see going. You know, it's a great transition. The people who thought about this before us, it was not done. It was 35, you know, they can have the units, they drop it down to the whatever, R35 or whatever, and then you have it. But now all of a sudden we're bringing in this commercial part of it, which means it's 24/7, 365, all night long. We're going to have food deliveries. We got linen deliveries. We got, you know, you're going to have the workers coming in. They ain't going to want to park over there in the valet and pay for that. They're going to be parking on the street everywhere they possibly can. It's just going to be, you know, for me, it just gets worse and worse. Thanks for letting me.
Thank you.
I brought visual aids, but I don't know if you'll be able to see. We'll zoom out a little bit. Okay, there we go. And it's just really quick. These are, you saw the overviews.
Can you,
Oh, I'm sorry.
yourself? Yeah.
Bobby O'Brien, Quenneville. I'm at 702 West Bay Street, Unit C. I'm 10 yards from where they want to put the 6-story event center, 7-story hotel. So it affects me. Because you're historic, that's the first premise that's most important. I thought it was important to look at the maps. This is the 1915 Sanborn map, close up. You will see only residences. They're in yellow because they're wood. That's why they didn't exist too long. Again, this is the 1931 map, residents only. This is residential. And there was a mini golf course, believe it or not, which was there through 1951. So again, residences, not commercial. You might have some light now attorneys or title companies, but you do not have 6- and 7-story buildings. This is what the client is proposing, and I wanted to start by saying the Schlesinger family, good on them for the Brazilian Court Hotel. That is great. It's a historic 100-year-old structure. They renovated it. It's got great reviews, but it also is only 3 stories high, and I wish they would take that same preservation look and see what the community has here, because what they want to do on my street is put in, as they said, loading docks. The garbage collection, this is where the access, which would be gated, to the parking garage, which means the ancillary parking on all of the residential streets would be a major problem. This right here, Brevard, is so tiny, to think that you'd have a turnaround here is incredible. I don't know if anybody's done a traffic study, but it's important that it be looked at, because this is not on Bayshore. This is at the corner of Bayshore Boulevard and Swan. That is something that is critical, and I'll show you in a minute. But what I did want you to see is what they did allow for the 9-story bank building. This is where their trash bins are, right on the sidewalk. There's no accommodation for anything. Now, granted, they might put their garbage inside. That won't work. You also see collapsed brick, and I can show you, you can look at the city records. The brick streets, 2 of them that bind this, are historic brick streets. They cannot handle the traffic. And the intersection that they're talking about, that they think they can steer people away from, the reason it's even configured the way it is because someone was killed there in 2004 to where they had to stop people from turning north. So there are a lot of public safety concerns. I appreciate your time. And I guess you started it even before I gave my name, so I'll talk faster next time.
Thank you.
Okay, my name is Joe Hanlon, and my wife and I own the apartment building on the corner of Swan and Brevard. There was a picture of it, big red brick building, and we have a little townhouse behind it. We've owned that building for 40 years. We renovated it about 15 years ago. And my primary concern is with traffic. You've got to go over and look at Bay Street. It's an old-fashioned, narrow brick street, and there is parking on one side. So the traffic through there cannot accommodate any serious kind of commercial traffic, semis, delivery trucks. The Brevard is paved, not brick, but we rely on that for the parking for our tenants. I don't really have any on-site parking for the 4 apartment units that we lease out. So I'm not opposed to the project, but I'm opposed to any kind of intense traffic off the site, on the street. He was sort of bragging about the Epicurean, and that you can drive up and down Howard by Burns there. That's true. Somehow they've accommodated that all off the sidewalk, behind the building, inside. I'll finish with this. A couple of years ago, we opposed an elderly project a couple of blocks away, and Charlie Miranda on the city council noted that the developer was requiring to have a flag man, sort of a permanent employee of this elderly project that would direct traffic on De Leon and South Hyde Park Boulevard. A flagman, because the designers and the architects were relying on the major delivery and the major accommodation for all freight and everything in and out of the kitchen and the area for the elderly housing was going to be taking place in the street. And of course, that's the street that takes the ambulances over to Tampa General. Anyway, anytime you've got a flag man, you've got a serious problem. And these people are going to have to try to accommodate all their traffic on site. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Susan Turner. I live at 702 South Fielding Avenue, which is on the corner of Fielding and Swan. We've lived there since 1982 and have seen increased traffic, particularly in the last couple of years. To add traffic from a 220-seat restaurant and another restaurant that seats 100, plus all of the townhouses and condominiums that are proposed, would absolutely keep everyone in on Brevard, on Swan, on Fielding, on Boulevard from ever getting out of their driveways. And as was pointed out earlier by Bob Kelly, who lives right in back of us, this would be 24/7. This would be 365 days a year. This is not just 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. The other concerns that I have is if you walk from Magnolia down to Hyde Park Village, which we often do, there's only one structure that's more than 3 stories, and that is the steeple on the Presbyterian Church. The rest of the structures there are mostly 2 stories, sometimes 3. You don't get to a 4-story structure until you get to Hyde Park Village, where the parking garage is. So aesthetically, this does not fit with the neighborhood at all. Lastly, I want to address the issue of school safety for Wilson Middle School and Gorey Elementary. As a former school administrator, I can tell you that this will be a major problem for parents in the morning and in the afternoon. It doesn't matter that the school times was, one of the developers mentioned that they had done a study of this and had really nice graphs. Well, that doesn't always occur. In elementary schools and middle schools, you have lots of traffic throughout the day. And if you have all of these delivery trucks throughout the day, they're going to coincide with entry and exit from schools, which would cause a major safety problem for parents dropping off, for teachers arriving, for students. Thank you very much. I hope you will not consider this project.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's John Belolovic. I live at 702 South Fielding Avenue. Other problems have been addressed by a variety of presenters here at the proposal and commenters whose positions I happen to agree with. I bought my house at 702 South Fielding in 1979. Those of you who have been in our community for some period of time know what the Hyde Park neighborhood was like back in the 1970s and into the 80s, when homes were much more affordable for folks like me. Since I taught for decades at the University of South Florida, people wondered, why in heaven's name would you commute all the way from Hyde Park, where, Hyde Park? All the way to the university? Really? When you could live in Temple Terrace? Or Brandon? Or Carrollwood? And my goodness, ladies and gentlemen, how it has changed, huh? How it has changed over time. I went to a small college in Pennsylvania, and the president of that college was in town this past weekend. And we took her to lunch at Timpano's. We walked up. And we walked through the neighborhood, came back, came through the Bay Shore, and Diamondman. And she said, "Do you know what a treasure you have here?" And I said, "Yes, we do." And I explained to her what was being proposed. And she said, "Oh my." She said, don't lose it. Don't lose it. And I said, "Well, we're trying. We're trying our best. We want development on that property. That's not the issue. It needs to be developed. But this, ladies and gentlemen, is the wrong proposal in the wrong place at the wrong time." Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. Barry Carpe, 715 South Boulevard. I've been a resident of Hyde Park since October of 2000. I've lived in Tampa since 1959 and have been a home builder and a real estate developer since 1976. My experience regarding comprehensive land use map changes and subsequent rezonings is that the completed project works best with neighborhood participation. The applicant is taking a unique and transparent approach, which I find very reassuring. First, they'll seek a recommendation of approval by this commission for the hotel use. If recommendation is approved, they'll not move forward to City Council, but pause that final hearing and start the rezoning process. The rezoning application will have specific plans addressing many of our neighborhood's concerns, such as parking, drainage, traffic, buffers, access, massing, architecture, and other issues. Mr. Gardner has expressed his willingness to continue meeting with the neighborhood associations to discuss our concerns. The plans will be reviewed by staff, appear before the Planning Commission for recommendation of approval, then return to this commission for recommendation of approval, and ultimately appear before City Council. That appearance before City Council will be to vote on both the comp plan and the rezoning for approval. Finally, based on my development experience, it is unique for a 2-acre block in an A+ location in a historic district to be assembled for development. Interest for multifamily housing is on the rise once again for A+ locations. As a result, I firmly believe this block will be developed. I personally would like to have a community asset like the hotel in Hyde Park, rather than another condominium or apartment. I support the applicant's request to ask that you vote recommending approval, just the approval, for the hotel use. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mary Lou Bailey. I live at 912 South Oregon Avenue. I'm first here on behalf of the Board of Hyde Park Preservation, Inc., one of the associations that's referenced in the Historic District. Members of our board have met repeatedly with the development team. We're fiercely protective of our district. We love it. I'm personally fiercely protective, but our board is very passionate about preservation in our district. And we had a long conversation at the full board to debate all the pros and cons of this, and then passed the following motion, which I will read into the record. The HPPI board is not currently opposed to this requested comprehensive plan amendment. HPPI plans to be engaged in the process as the plan development progresses, including involvement with our members. So that's the motion the board passed. I'm going to use the remainder of my time to talk about my view. The collective site today is an eyesore and a hazard. Other than the one contributing structure, it's a patchwork of unattractive buildings and surface lots. There is a big flooding problem here. A redevelopment is in the public interest, as it will require bringing the site into conformance with modern standards, especially as it relates to water retention. However, with no comprehensive plan change, approximately 70 apartments can go in there. This will definitely exacerbate traffic and school issues, and I do not want to see this. I'm attracted to the idea of a boutique hotel as part of our historic district, if it's done right. This will require working with the development team on the PD before it comes back to you and then on to council. A PD provides a vehicle to have parameters to bring the idea of done right to reality in a way that is enforceable in the long term. The development team has already started engaging with citizens on traffic, ingress, egress, deliveries, parking, reviews of other properties to inform the design, but none of that is part of tonight's recommendation. I'm very familiar with the site. My 2 girls went to Gorey and then to Wilson, and now they're at Plant. And while I live on Oregon Avenue now, I lived for 20 years at a different Hyde Park address directly behind Hyde Park Village. That property has certainly seen a lot of change over the years that I've been here. But it is an example that is a productive and beneficial example of mixed use with hotel and restaurants and residents all coexisting nearby. I personally support the plan to allow boutique use. The work is yet in front of us to figure out what done right means. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that's here to speak for or against this project? Okay, seeing no one, we will go to commissioner questions, and I'll start on my right.
I have a question to the petitioner about if you could go through a little bit more and talk about parking and just traffic flow, parking, deliveries, drop off again, and just kind of run through that once more. And I do know that it's early in this, in kind of the planning for that, and there's a lot to be worked out. My firm, we'll say this, my firm was the architect for the Epicurean, so I have an understanding of what's in front of you.
Thank you for your question again. Truett Gardner, 400 North Astor Drive. We keep mentioning this, the PD that's going to run along with that, and I want to delve further into that. As it relates to parking, and we're fortunate enough to do projects of this scale quite frequently, and you, I believe, have done some yourself. We have a very suburban parking code in a very urban environment, but we know that that's a concern, and talk to the neighbors, that's been a concern. And so what we've strived to do, I think successfully, is if you look at our PD, we have no parking waiver requested at all. So we're going to meet parking. And then on top of that, the other side is, well, now are you going to see this parking garage? And through Stephen Smith and Tim Clemens, our project architects, they've completely shielded the site from any view at all from that parking structure. And then you also mentioned traffic flow. Is this back on your screen?
Yes.
So again, I don't know where you want to, I'll just run through one more time. At present, there's 4 ingress and egress locations on Swan. And talking to the neighbors, that was that primary concern of that ability to have multiple spots to come in and out on Swan. We've reduced that down to 1, which is going to be very limited in nature, again, to service as a leasing center in the historic structure, and then as a pickup and drop-off point for special events. And what's neat about that is that special events would occur predominantly in non-peak times. And so Swan was primary in our conversations and in our planning, so that's how we're addressing Swan. And then, again, on the east side, kind of working around in intensity and feedback that we heard, Magnolia seems to be the natural place for pickup and drop-off to primarily service the hotel and the restaurants. And the concern that we heard there was absolutely no problem with that at all, especially as it pertains to northbound traffic. But again, that concern of that intersection of Bayshore, Magnolia, Swan, and so how do we prevent that westbound flow of traffic? And so that's where I mentioned we're diverting that traffic north, and then again, east on Bay, so should you want to go southbound, you've got a direct path to Bayshore, which will take some training. Valets will have to be educated on that as well. But I think just naturally that works better than going through, your Willows, your Delawares of those to filter down and go south on Bayshore. And then working north to Bay, again, and looking at that, and Stephen Smith can speak to this, that's primarily a commercial corridor. So we thought nobody likes back of house, but back of house has to go somewhere. We thought that was the natural location for that. Again, in projects of this scale, we're constantly asking for waivers to the number of loading spaces. Here we are not. We're providing all of those loading spaces to get that traffic off the street, which so many people experience in Hyde Park Village. And then just east of that loading area, again, if you're valet, the valet will pull out over to Magnolia for pickup. But again, for those 29 residents, that'll be their primary point of ingress and egress to the garage. And then on Brevard, down to 1 ingress and egress point that almost matches slightly to the south of the existing alley. And that'll be limited in scale, or limited in use, I should say, to that leasing center, and then also as the exit for special events, which again will be non-peak times. So that's the way we've thought about it. Again, we're, as you mentioned, early, but we've tried to be very thoughtful. I'm going to mention in my rebuttal our conversation to the townhomes to the south, and we've promised them that should we be allowed to go forward with a positive recommendation from you tonight, really work on that Brevard location, but wanted to at least answer your question as to how we're thinking about traffic flow so far.
Thank you.
And Stephen, do you want to add anything to that, or?
I think really the only thing to add, again, I like using Epicurean as an example because I live with it every day. And it's amazing, at the Epicurean, there are 2 sets of ingress and egress now across the street from one another. And again, it's emptying into Howard Avenue, really almost opposite one another. And because of the time of day differences in the functions of a hotel like this, you don't get those sort of overlaps to create the concentration you have with other building types. So again, Epicurean has the ballrooms, it has entertaining terraces, it has all of these things. Just want to tell you the experience in reality of these are more benevolent. Thank you.
Commissioner Prokop?
I have no questions.
Commissioner Post?
Thank you. Good evening. I appreciate the presentation. A couple of questions, starting with staff. And again, I know we're early. I would echo my colleague said some of these things come much further down the line, but since we've gone into some of that detail, I'll pull the thread a little further. Is there a height restriction on this site? What is the max height allowed?
St. Thomas Development Coordination, are you referring to height under the current zoning district or in the future?
The proposed future.
The proposed future, under the plan development rezoning that they're requesting, they're able to set their own height, or they're able to request their own height.
So that leads me to the second question. Assuming the land use change goes through and there's a CMU 35, what's being suggested is a PD. But let's say the world changes and someone opts to proceed without a PD. Mm-hmm. What then? What is the intensity, sort of the maximums that could occur at the CMU 35 without a PD?
So without a PD, and I'll let Danny speak to this a little bit because the comprehensive plan gives some general guidelines for it, but there's 2 new zoning districts that open up that you could possibly rezone to if they were to go to CMU 35. That would be the Office Professional 1 or Office Professional Zoning District and the Commercial General Zoning District. The Office Professional Zoning District has a maximum building height of 60 feet. So that would, from my understanding, that would be the tallest out of any zoning district you could possibly go there. Currently, right now, under the current R01 zoning district that the site is under, they do have the ability to apply for a special use 1 permit, which is an administrative process to do multifamily under the and that if they did do that process, the guidelines under the S1 refer you to residential multifamily 24 standards. The maximum building height there is 60 feet. There are step back guidelines within that though.
Great, thank you. Very helpful. And so what is the height being proposed? The max height is 7 stories. Is it 7?
Yes,
Sorry,
7
jumping around.
stories.
So you'll be over
And
60.
If I could I add just a little bit of color to your question? Because I think it's a good one. Again, we're dealing with, we've got a PD, but I think your question was great of what happens if things change, what are the heights? And I think what's really interesting there is, put this on the, this is directly from the comprehensive plan. It's a little bit confusing how it works, but I'll just show you. So these 2, CC 35 and CMU 35, which is pink, that's our request, are kind of in this box here, if you will. And specifically as it relates to height, and this, again, this is the guideline of what you and what City Council should follow. What it states right here is building heights that are typically up to 5 stories. So that's what should be considered under CC 35 and CMU 35. Under the current Res 35, which is this right here, again, here's the overall box with these 3 designations considered within that box. Res 35, and then if you go over here, and this is heights, up to 8 stories for medium residential. So really, by virtue, should this plan amendment be approved, in your scenario, what could be requested is actually 3 stories lower than how it exists today.
Got it. I see Danny.
I kind of just want to clarify, the comprehensive plan doesn't, I was Stan Collins with the Planning Commission staff, the comprehensive plan doesn't restrict building heights. Those are just general heights that are described in the categories. There are parcels that are, you know, throughout the city that far exceed those building heights in the CMU 35 up to a 2.0 FAR. And again, I just want to remind you, you're recommending approval for a land use change, not approval of a hotel. So I just want you to keep that in mind as well.
No, I appreciate both of those, and that's really the flavor of my question is, at the land use designation, if we're recommending approval to modify to CMU 35, what would be sort of the worst case scenarios, if you will, from an intensity perspective to a resident, adjacent to residential neighborhoods?
Yeah, and, you know, just to, you know, clarify that as well, there's policies in the plan that talk about stepping back buildings, that they should be, you know, comparable and compatible with surrounding area. So if there is a PD that moves forward, you know, our staff will be reviewing it for consistency with those policies and with regard to step back or, you know, stepping back the building and building height and so forth.
Appreciate it. One other staff question. Is there other CMU 35 land use in the Hyde Park Historic District?
I don't know offhand. I know, again, like right directly to the east of the site, the Bank of Tampa building, CMU 35.
That's
and I believe,
outside the district.
Yeah, I know it's just outside the boundary, but, oh, sorry.
No, I think, so Addie Clark, 400 North Ashley Drive, we looked into that, I didn't mean to jump in. So we looked into that, and there's about 26 acres, plus or minus, of existing CMU 35 in the historic district.
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate it. While you're there then, thank you, staff. Just a couple of questions for the applicant. Can you just flesh out, what is the treatment expected for the contributing structure? Does it remain as a home? What's going on there? Okay.
Yes, what will happen with it?
Yes.
The thoughts are that it will be restored to its original condition. Like many of the structures, there's been some incompatible changes over time, and then would turn into have more of an office use to it.
Got it. Thank you. Sorry, I missed that. And then question about rooftop uses. You mentioned a pool in one area.
Yes.
What else would that be for the hotel residents? Again, just mindful of proximity to neighborhoods. There's a lot of questions and concerns about use of rooftops, noise, sound, light, et cetera. And again, I know we're very early, but just getting that on the register in terms of the impacts of any aspects of the rooftop that's contemplated.
Yes, great question. There is thought to be on the 5th floor, a rooftop pool, not something huge in nature, just for hotel guests. There is a outdoor sort of lounge bar area, again, only for hotel guests. Again, using examples that we know, the Epicurean has a similar pool, but it's actually at grade level, and then also has their rooftop bar that's 4 stories, I believe, 4 stories high there. So we don't see anything dissimilar there. And then there is a small pool thought about on the Magnolia side. Again, just for condominium residents, about the size of a residential pool. Mm-hmm. And both we don't see visible from the pedestrian level.
Great, thank you. 2 other questions. So for the back of house, you're right, no one ever wants it, but it's the necessary evil. So you have loading and trash accounted for there. What is immediately adjacent? Is that residence? What's across Bay Street?
Yeah, across Bay Street is there's may need some help. There's some residential scaled buildings that are now either office uses. I may need some additional help on
Okay.
exactly what they are. There's a wonderful historic home that's now turned into a commercial use that's at Magnolia in Bay Street. I know that one for sure. I've drawn it before. It's beautiful. Yes.
I think, just again, knowing that it's early but the location of some of, and the proximity and adjacencies, I believe would be very, very imperative to understand how things, because we saw the aerials,
Yeah.
and then we saw your proposed use but not overlaid, to know exactly where some of your egress, ingress, is it running into other people's driveways, is it in their front yards, will cars exit and streetlights will shine in people's windows? Again, way into the weeds, but I
Yes.
think those things just need to be they need to be superimposed in terms of how your plan sits in top of a more broad, you need to pan up and look at
Yes.
the aerial.
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you,
Yes.
appreciate it.
Right now, it's thought that those, the loading and trash area is fully enclosed, not open, that sort of thing, and that there would be no vehicular light that would emit from the garage.
You have some egress, though, coming out onto,
The Bay Street.
to Bay and also onto Brevard.
Yes, the Brevard
The
is.
turnaround.
Is sort of, yeah, it's a part of the Porte-Cochere drop-off area, and then traffic would go and then go into the garage on Bay Street.
When they
So
come
yes.
around that drop-off, their lights are gonna shine into something right across the street. Just, I think it would be helpful to just see
Yes.
those impacts as this progresses, presuming it progresses. Thank you.
Yes, good point, yes.
Same time as development coordination, were you still interested in the uses on Bay Street?
Sure, please.
I can show you the zoning map. So this is, blue color is a residential office. So along Bay Street here, all the zoning is residential office one. From my research that I've done, it looks like most of those uses all across the parcel, if not all the uses, are residential offices. This right here is RM16, so that'd be residential. This PD here is residential, and then you have your RS60 down here that's residential.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Gardner, on your presentation, slide 7, I don't know if you can.
I cannot, but Addie can.
I think slide 7 had the language of chapter 27, section 27-113. So can you just explain a little further why you think that the proposal, we won't run afoul of this language?
So the purpose of this slide is, again, to kind of state, it's a hard conversation because we're talking about a map amendment, but ultimately we're talking about a hotel and the size and the scale of that, and how do we link those two? And so this slide is really an attempt at comfort for the ARC, basically saying that this future land use request has absolutely no effect on the historical integrity of the site or its appearance, that really that is going to come through that PD process. So the entire reason we're in front of you tonight, which I'm going to get into a little bit more on rebuttal and answer the concerns of staff, is just that ability to hit go and ask for hotel to be considered as a use. So again, we're not here asking for you to recommend the project as a whole. We're here to ask you to allow us to ask for a hotel, which then allows us to proceed with that PD, and that's where your assurances are going to come in, if that answers your question. I know it's complicated, but
Yeah, so, but you think that the request to change from R35 to CMU 35, we are not running afoul of preserving the historical appearance of the district?
correct. One, I think, as was asked, 26 acres of that CMU 35 within the district. Obviously, outside of the district, you've got CMU 35 neighboring it. But then you start to get into those uses, and I think what makes Hyde Park is a mix of uses. And so ultimately, this comes down to the question of, assuming the site is going to be redeveloped, and I'm trying to say that in the most non-threatening way, the question is it better as a 71-unit condominium project that nobody can use, that's going to be walled off, or is it better as a mixed-use development with the predominant use being hotel? And I think the answer to that is yes, but that's why y'all are on that side of the dais, and I'm over here.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Okay, I've got a couple of questions. I think it was Danny, you had a slide on the presentation from the Planning Commission, and it was the slide that talked about current use and proposed 71 units, 55,000 square feet, commercial. You put that up there? Yes. Okay, so explain to me the 53,000 square feet versus the 178,000 square feet.
Yeah, so today, under the residential 35, the site can be considered for certain neighborhood-serving commercial uses. So those would be uses that fall under the commercial neighborhood zoning district or the RO zoning district. And if you meet that locational criteria, the site can be considered for up to a 0.6 FAR, which that gives us 53,578 square feet of non-residential uses.
Gotcha.
Under,
But that's 71 plus.
no, it's one or the other.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then on potential,
On potential. Because it is a mixed-use category, the applicant can utilize either the FAR, so the square footage calculation, or the dwelling units per acre. So if they were to do just straight residential, they can do 71 dwelling units, so 35 dwellings per acre, or up to 178,596 square feet of residential uses. If they were to do single-use commercial or non-residential uses, they could do a maximum of 178,596 square feet. If they were to do mixed use, could not exceed that 178,000 square feet.
gotcha.
So,
The entire reason for this, my understanding for this comp plan change is so a boutique hotel can be put here. Is there any other land use or any other vehicle that's available for that to happen?
I would turn that over to the city staff, to kind of interpret, but that's more of a zoning specific question.
Sam Thomas, Development Coordination. Could you clarify your question a little bit? If there are any other, are you
Well, it's being
talking
presented
speakly?
that this comp plan change is required because the applicant, their program is fundamentally about a boutique hotel. So my question is there any other way that they could go about getting a boutique hotel here, or is this the only way?
With the current future land use designation and based on the zoning districts that are consistent with that, none of those zoning districts are going to allow for a hotel.
Okay. Did you have anything to add to that?
I do. I'm not trying to butt in here, but we looked at that.
Okay.
And to find the least intrusive way to go about this. The only other idea that we came up with was a text amendment that would allow hotels to be considered in Res 35. But we thought the problem with that is we're opening up Pandora's box, and it's not specific to this location. That's specific then to Res 35 throughout the city. And so wanted to limit it to this site and this site only, and thought it was better to proceed with the CMU 35 to unlock that ability to ask for the use than the text amendment. Those were the only two ideas that we could conjure up.
Well, so you answered my question, because the first challenge is this the least intensive way of doing it? So then my next question, and again, I understand why you presented it this way, because you have to have a little bit of a vision. I get it was a very hopeful exhibit showing the stories, even though that may change, but okay, let's play along and say that's what it is that you guys are gonna do in your rezoning. Does that vision that you presented, does that maximize what you can do with this site under the CMU 35? Or is it less than maximum?
So this is where things get really opaque and confusing. If I could put, oops, there we go. If I could put this slide back up, and just to unpack it one more time. So what we were trying to do here is say, with that CMU 35, if we developed it to the extent that we could, it would be 176,542 square feet. That's the size of the building that would be there. And then this is where things get a little bit complicated with the planning commission, and I think I understand and appreciate your concern. I'm actually going through my entire rebuttal, and so I'm offering stuff up that I was going to offer then. But what's interesting, and I think the limitation that Danny has and that your staff has, is that they feel the need to look at this in a vacuum. And so what if there is no PD attached to it? What happens here? And which is a very valid question. And so I think the biggest concern is, and this is the FAR density play, you take that 176,000 square feet, now you're no longer bounded by the 71 units. If this was developed as an apartment complex with 500 square feet units as opposed to the 2,500 that we're showing, you could get as many units as you could get divided by that 500 square feet. So I think that's the primary, it's a simplification, but that's the driver of.
I understand what you're telling me is that as it is, the land use today, it could be big. But I guess what I'm asking you is your PD matching that? And it appears that it is. It doesn't appear that your PD is any smaller, which is part of the argument about integration of mass. So
Right.
my question is, I think I know the answer because it's a capitalist world out here and they're going to try to make as much money as they can make. But did you explore coming with a PD that didn't maximize it? That gave you the Botuc Hotel, but didn't maximize it.
So to be totally candid, our PD as presented, if allowed, we would be able to do a 2.0 FAR. That's what we're requesting. So we can always come down from that, and the building may very well do so. But we are requesting that just to have that flexibility. I think what Stephen was speaking to and can speak to further is when you look at that 2.0 FAR and you apply it to other sites within the district that have been constructed, it's in keeping with and in scale with, you know, the Allegro on Boulevard, the Valencia, those. So that scale is right. It's not like we're introducing a new scale to this site. What I was going to put out for you guys, and I discussed it with Ron last week and then with Dennis today since Ron can't be here, is that we would also be open, if I'm you, and again, not trying to apply my opinions to you, but I would be concerned about that opening of Pandora's box and that vacuum scenario. And we would be completely open, and I think this is appropriate, almost similar to what we did at that TGH site where you all are conditioning your approval, that it be tied to our PD. Your recommendation, should you be so inclined, be tied to our PD that does not allow for that scenario of 176,000 square feet being chopped into as many multifamily units as possible, that it has to be tied to a predominant hotel use. Again, getting back to the primary reason why we're in front of you today, and we would be open and to that should you be so inclined.
Sure. Did your client, I guess, were they at all inclined to reducing their ask on their rezoning?
So I'll just answer the question as honest as I can. That's our request now. I think there's already some conversation with staff on reducing massing, particularly on that Brevard side, that we're inclined with. And I think should this proceed, we can't ask for more, but we can ask for less, and I think it'll go in that direction.
Gotcha. Yeah, so again, back to that exhibit, I appreciate all the traffic flow. I think it's a little bit of a bogus argument about Stormwater, because any development that happens is gonna have to meet stormwater, so that's kind of apples for apples. Frankly, Epicurean did a nice job. Howard has traffic problems, and we can't kid ourselves that this is not. And Hyde Park is so incredibly busy that there's just no way that this parking is not gonna bleed over into those neighborhoods. So if this does proceed, that'll be a number one priority.
100%.
And again, I think your discussion about the commercial side on the north is correct, but be very careful not to mitigate or minimize the residents who live there, because they do live on that street.
Right.
And I think they live right across the way. And again, it is not Dale Mabry to the north. It is a brick residential street that happens to have houses that were converted to offices. So we're playing a little bit of game with words, and it is a neighborhood. It's a residential neighborhood in a transition area, so you got to be very, very careful with that.
100% agree. You know, on that traffic, and Stephen can probably speak more intelligently, that's why we did think, you know, unfortunately, back of house is necessary, has to go somewhere. Our thought there was, with those being offices that are generally closing at 5 o'clock, better to have kind of that function there. But then that primary ingress and egress point on Magnolia was the thought. And then secondly, just traffic in general. The slide that Addie showed, which I think is really effective and has been effective in our conversations, that where you have those AM and PM peaks as it relates to schools in particular was the concern that we heard, but also just general traffic. If you put 71 more residents, which again is what you can do today, you're just exacerbating those spikes. Those are going to be people that are living there, taking their children to school, going to work. Whereas with a hotel, personally, when I think about my travel plans or hotel use, it's contingent on what time does my flight arrive, what time are my meetings. And so it starts to distribute that traffic more smoother, so you're not exacerbating those spikes. And so I think that's what makes hotel an interesting
That's
use
fair,
here.
but you still are putting 29 full-time residents there. So that's 40% of what could be built there. You're taking that, and then you're adding, and the concerning part is 220 users to one of the restaurants. I believe I heard that right. And there's gonna be a second one that can seat 100. So there's 340 residents. Hopefully they all Uber, except these Uber drivers take up the roads too, and they sit and they take up parking spots while they're waiting for people to get out from. So, I mean, we know how it works.
Right.
So there's gonna be a tremendous amount of traffic that happens. Again, I'm not anti-development. I'm very concerned about the size of this building. I'm very familiar with Cooper Johnson's work. They do beautiful work, but big is big, right? It's articulated, but big is big. And I'm just concerned with the amount of program that's gonna go in here. And I love the concept of a boutique hotel. I understand what you're trying to tell me. It seems too big. It seems, and I get why. It seems too big.
We hear you, and as we've told all the neighbors that we've been working with, we're taking all these into consideration. Again, back to what we're asking for tonight is just that ability to unlock our ability to ask for hotel. But we'll definitely note the size and scale and have that conversation.
Okay, any other questions? Have a taker?
I do. Perhaps, though, we have a rebuttal. May I reserve my last question till after the rebuttal?
No, you may not.
No, I-
You really need to ask your questions.
Okay, so.
We will have discussion. after
Great,
rebuttal.
there you go.
Yeah.
So I am interested, apparently you have had a number of community discussions and meetings, and have you made adjustments to that future proposed plan based on community inputs?
So, you know, really kind of when in all the conversations we've had, traffic, number one, stormwater, especially when we started these conversations in November at the heel of our hurricane season. So, for instance, we have shown that there will be an improvement in the stormwater compared to today. We have shown kind of traffic flows in that site plan. What we've promised everybody and what we'll promise you is that should we be allowed to proceed with this PD and ask for this use, those are going to be the things that we're focused on. How do we acknowledge, Mr. Kempton, this is going to have a traffic impact, but how do we mitigate those to the best and fullest extent that we can? And that's what we're going to be working on.
Thank you.
Okay. Last chance for questions. Okay, seeing no more questions, Drew, you get 5 minutes for rebuttal.
Perfect. And Stephen Smith's going to jump in here too. But first and foremost, I wanted to thank everybody that came out, both for and those expressing concerns. And Ms. Post, just as I promised to you, our promise to them is that we're going to continue to work with them should we be allowed to proceed. I wanted to really just kind of reset us back to the nature of the request, which again is our ability to unlock this hotel use. And then when you look at the two primary concerns of staff, one is the coastal high hazard area. 2 points on that. One is that fear of increasing permanent residents. And this is where we feel that hotel is the appropriate use because, as you mentioned, Mr. Kempton, 29 permanent residents is what we would be requesting. What's allowed today is 71. So just by the nature of our PD request, we are reducing the number of permanent residents. And then secondly, on stormwater, again, you saw the current situation. Yes, any developer would have to improve it. If this was done in a piecemeal way, we feel that that's inferior to doing this as a collective where there can be a thoughtful stormwater system provided for that entire block. And then on density, I know I got into this before, but just one more time, I think that primary concern is looking at this in a vacuum and what happens should this proceed without a PD, what could be done then? And so, and that's that worst case scenario is the 176,000 square feet chopped up into as many small units as you possibly can. So we would be completely open, should you be inclined to recommend that your recommendation be conditioned on it being tied to a site plan with hotel as the predominant use. So just wanted to address head on those big concerns from staff and how we're going to deal with them. And then I thought this was particularly appropriate. If I would, I'm going to submit this. This is a letter from Jim Baker, and Jim was nice enough to host Addie and me at his townhouse, literally immediately across Swan from this site. I think we had like 14 people there. When we first walked in, there were a few skeptical eyes. When we walked out, they thought this was something that was absolutely great and a benefit and wanted to continue to work with us. We told them the same thing that we told you. We're not done, we're just getting started, but our promise is we'll work with you. And I just thought it might be helpful to just kind of read a couple pieces of his letter. As a homeowner in the immediate vicinity of the site, I'm writing to express my strong support for the proposed land use change at the corner of West Swan and Magnolia Avenue. This block is primed for development and is unlikely to remain occupied by office buildings or surface parking indefinitely. A well-planned mixed-use project centered around a hotel can bring energy and vibrancy to our neighborhood. You can continue on, but I thought that that was interesting. These are the people that are literally the most impacted by this, and when we left, they were excited about it. Again, not committing to us with the PD, but at least wanted this comp plan to be able to proceed for us to be able to ask for that hotel. And again, kind of in the most non-threatening way possible, it is completely unique to have a 2-acre parcel in Hyde Park that is primed for development, that only has one contributing structure. And so this is a site that'll be redeveloped. So I think the question for you and for all of us is a condominium the appropriate use, or is a hotel the appropriate use with mixed amenities and some residents too? We feel it's hotel, and would ask for your recommendation to allow us to be able to proceed down that path. And with that, Stephen, if you want to say a few closing words too. But thank you for your time.
Thanks, Truett. And Truett really did sum things up really well. In fact, I changed what I was going to say because it really addresses maybe my first reaction to seeing the site and where it's located, and with the intensity that Mr. Kempton, you've brought up is, it is in the area of Hyde Park that is largely not residential. It's a lot of great older historic buildings that are now offices and vacant land, and it seems like the access that you have from Magnolia to Platt, or Magnolia to Azeel, and then Boulevard to Cleveland, and then Bay to Bayshore, gives it the ability to diffuse traffic without sending it through the residential core of Hyde Park. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, at this point, we will close the public portion of this hearing and move on to discussion. I believe Mr. Prokop has been scribbling.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. I think I understand, I don't have any questions about the presentation. But I have a lot of concerns, and I've written down probably 30 different notes as we went through, and I'm not sure I'm putting these in any particular order. But what I heard was a 100-seat restaurant, another 200-seat restaurant, another 220-seat ballroom, a club room on the roof, 122 keys hotel, and 29 residential. And that really amounts to over 700 people. Most of them are coming and going, as opposed to 71 permanent residents who kind of just go to work, come home, and then, casual travel. But these 700 people, 100-seat restaurant, 200-seat restaurant, and 220-seat ballroom is 520 nonstop during the day, especially at night, in and out traffic. Parties, weddings, special events. Somebody brought up, the Ubers, back and forth to even the permanent residents, but just hotel rooms getting, Uber deliveries all the time instead of using the restaurant food service. That's a lot of people coming and going in that neighborhood on, a couple of narrow brick streets. The other thing I had really an issue with, again, we know this is just early and it's just proposed, like sketch form almost, but it's been developed further than sketch form. It would make total sense to me that the loading and the ugly and the nasty and the parking garage entrance and exit and everything else like that would face the bank and not face anything small scale residential, all that noise and smell, and I live in a high rise downtown. I mean, I know what I can't even park near the loading dock at all where the garbage disposal is. I won't, because then my car smells like that. I don't think it was mentioned before that it was discussed that this was a great transition, and I respect the opinion that it's a great transition from residential scale Hyde Park to the urban fringe. The urban part of Tampa is a little bit further away than Swan and Magnolia, and something of this density, in my opinion, again, as an urban planner and a practitioner of architecture for 45 years, belongs closer to the core, and that's where density should occur. This level of density should not occur in a basically residential historic district. Yeah, to me, that's a pretty clear observation. One of the other aspects of it is the beautiful little pictures that were shown of the random commercial buildings and the parking lots and everything else like that that are currently on the site. There are a lot of grand trees. There are a lot of big oaks all over this, parcel, this assembled parcel. And yes, it is very rare to assemble 2 acres in a historic district. But then to literally maximize the zoning in a historic district is not preserving, the words are, we would consider a change in land use and zoning if it enhances the historic district. I don't think something of this size enhances the Hyde Park Historic District. We all know that, while Hyde Park Village is what, it's there, it got there, it's in the district. And it's thriving, but every resident adjacent has issues with it. We heard that, in testimony when they were doing the refinishing, that, or the reskinning, that, what are you doing with the loading? What are you doing? There's constantly, there's dirt, there's dust, there's trash, there's, people throwing bottles, there's drunk people, in the residential neighborhoods. And I think we'd be asking for that here to put a hotel on this site. But every tree is gone. Every tree on the property is gone. What are a couple of my other notes here? We talked about, the comparison of Epicurean as being a precedent, dumping onto Howard Avenue. Howard Avenue doesn't have any residential, small-scale residential, other than a couple of small apartment buildings here and there. It's not bungalows and so there's a distinct difference between those two streets. What are a couple of my other comments here? Not sure I have too many other comments. Oh, there was another thing. I mean, if you go with a 2.0 FAR at 71 units per acre times 2 is 142 units is the max that could be done as this zoning occurs, with the new zoning to go to a 2.0 FAR. Given the 122 keys, the 29 residential, and everything else involved, what was I looking at? That's 151. That's more than the 142 if you went 71 times 2.0. If you're doing it residential, which again is a much quieter situation than a hotel coming in.
I think you're getting confused on that. 35 times 2.0. That's where the 71 units was coming up.
It was 71 units per acre. Oh, I'm sorry, and it's 2 acres.
Yeah.
Not the 2.0 FAR. You're correct. But it's 2 acres. So that's 142 units. This has actually got, with the hotel room keys and the residential, it's got 151 keys. So it's more than the number of people that would be. And I'm not sure what we talked about reducing permanent residents, and that's an issue, is reducing the permanent residents. Just from my experience, transient residents and wedding parties and whatnot, I think that providing the opportunity for a hotel here is actually opening Pandora's box for all the adjacent residential properties. And I guess that's it. Those are my comments.
All right. Other discussion? Probably won't get applause, but.
Well, I'll offer my thoughts. I won't repeat some of which are already stated. I think that the site needs some TLC. It needs attention. It is not, the mix of structures and uses are not harmonized with each other or with the district. So no question there. And the ability to have a planned use, if you will, across the entirety of the site is attractive and appealing, and I think when that's done well, you do get a 2 + 2 = 5 kind of outcome, more so than if it's done piecemeal. So all of that is positive, but I tend to agree with some of the concern in making this land use change, which is, it's a move that really cannot be undone. Nobody's going to
It starts to
come back.
snowball.
It's the slippery slope.
Right.
So, in addition, I typically defer to staff in terms of their findings, in this case, finding it inconsistent. I respect the numerous neighbors and neighborhood associations, as well as there's a mix of comments and inputs. I think the driver for me is not being opposed to redevelopment. I do think there is an incredible opportunity to rethink and reimagine this site. But the fact that there appears to have not been any major adjustments made to what's being proposed downstream to accommodate, mitigate, moderate some of the intense impacts would lead me to not be able to support the land use change.
Yeah, and one of the comments I didn't even hit was, we talked, one of the presenters talked about the Allegro building, the senior citizens housing and all that kind of stuff. People don't come and go from there. It's not a traffic generator. It's not, we have.
I think that was more in.
It was massing. It was massing. I agree, it's massing, but you have to look at the whole picture. It's not just massing. It's the amount of people who are in that massing and the traffic of those people in that massing. If you had good restaurants that had, filled seating, and you had a wedding in a ballroom, you'd have 500 people coming and going every night.
But aren't we getting a little bit the cart before the horse? Because, let me just say this. Because if they had not presented their idea of what this could look like, we wouldn't be even having this discussion about, respectfully, where the trash is gonna go, whether the trash looks at Bank of Tampa, which they probably did that because then where would you put the entrance? Because I imagine that somebody for Swan is gonna say, no way there should be an entrance to a hotel coming off of Swan, so that you have going in and coming out into Swan. So, but if they had not presented any of that and opened up this Pandora's box about all these details, and we were just presented with, can we change it so that we can build a hotel to a site that only has one contributing building on it, that somebody is going to redevelop this parcel of land at some point. And to me, it seems like that the language is the change to preserve the historic appearance of this district. And currently, that site has nothing historic about it except for that one lovely house on it.
Yep.
The rest of those buildings are maybe appropriate for their time period, but are not historic, I think, to the neighborhood.
Right, they don't contribute to character at all.
So the idea of is it going to blend in, isn't that really the next step? That is today's decision about, is this change, this for us to review, going to promote the appearance of the district to a lot that is already going to change at some point?
Correct.
And I would vote in favor of it. This lot is going to be redeveloped at some point. I think you've got a developer who is mindful of the district, that is reaching out to neighbors, that is not just coming with, I'm gonna put a hotel that's at 3 stories, and then they come with something at the final day and say, well, actually, it's 5 stories, and we'd like for you to approve, just 2 more stories. So it doesn't really bother me that they asked for a little bit more, because that's what's gonna happen, right? I mean, nobody's gonna come in and say, well, I asked for less, and then hoping that at the later end, you give me more when I come on final review. I think it's better to say, we're coming, and more honest to say, we're coming with the full request, but we hear the neighbors. And I grew up here. I was born and raised here in Tampa. I remember when Hyde Park We never went
Was.
to Hyde Park. There was nothing in Hyde Park to do. From my elementary school, I had to run to Cape Jackson, which was the only running I did, and I hated it. But that was all that was in Hyde Park. So I totally understand that it's changed and it's gotten more difficult for the neighbors. And it's all gotten more difficult. Even with Hyde Park Village itself, it's probably become more difficult for the neighbors. But at some point, to me, this lot is gonna change. And it seems that the request doesn't run afoul of chapter 27, section 27-113, and what we're required to decide.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think this is the place to stop it. I mean, even with all the concerns, I think the checks are gonna come. The checks and balances are gonna come. And that we should, I'm in favor of the petition being approved. But, and it's for you did that very articulately, and I just don't think this is I think we need to give it more time and more thought to be able to have all the concerns that are, that have been discussed, that are kind of swirling around, that will get their due consideration and scrutinization.
I don't see the problem with a development here at all. I don't. I mean, that's clear. I don't want to be anti-development. I make a living, okay, off of that, okay? But is 142 permanent residents, if it doesn't get rezoned, because we're rezoning, okay? We're changing the land use plan.
I'm gonna interrupt for 1 second.
Okay.
We can put the language in there about the hotel.
Okay.
To tie it to a hotel
To tie it to a
development.
hotel.
Right, but I just don't think this is the right place for a hotel. I've come down Bay Shore South to turn onto Swan, to go onto Swan. And it's dangerous. Just that intersection is dangerous. And that traffic's not gonna stop. And now you're putting the possibility of another 700 cars making that turn at some point in time, with these kinds of numbers of people that could be possibly occupied there, rather than 142 residences. And we're always worried about the traffic on Bay Shore, and this is going to put more load on Bay Shore. No matter what they say they're going to tell people to do, people coming from downtown are coming to this hotel on Bay Shore. And they're gonna, and that intersection of Bay Shore, Swan, Magnolia, brick roads that are going to have such increased traffic. We are being asked to alter the comprehensive plan, which we've been told by Hillsborough County is not recommended. It's not in going with the plan. We've been told that this is not, by our own staff, that this is not recommended. And I think we're creating another Hyde Park Village in a smaller scale, much smaller scale. But we're creating another thing that the residential neighborhood has issues with. Part of the comments on one of these letters is it brings new energy and vibrancy to our neighborhood. The residents don't want energy and vibrancy. They want quiet and walkability.
I don't agree with that.
But that
I don't agree with
that comment,
Yeah.
that comment was given by somebody who lives right across, who is a resident.
Yeah.
So not to downgrade their view.
One, I'm not downgrading.
I understand, but that is, you had other people come and say, we do think it's good. So I think our charge is to determine, per the language of the chapter, does the change preserve the historical appearance of the district?
And character.
And
And
it says
character.
integrity and appearance. That's the language of the chapter, integrity and appearance. And so I agree with Mr. Hammond that all these other issues, which I agree, I mean, nobody wants traffic, nobody wants but our charge is narrow for today.
If I may, it sounds like this will come down to the chair's position. So just to clarify from my perspective, because I think you both made valid points, and mine was based not so much on what will end up down the road, but more on whether CMU 35 is appropriate in this space. And asking, and that was some of the line of my question around what can be done within CMU 35 forever, whether it's this or anything else. And what else, also I thought you wisely asked what can be done in R35. And there are a range of potential uses within R35, not just a monolithic building. So that's my basis for it. I really like the project a lot. It's unfortunate that it's right inside the boundaries of the district, but it is right inside the boundaries of the district. So I'm inclined to preserve the underlying land use that accompanies the district, really regardless of some of those details we got into, just to clarify my position.
So if I may, and then I think we're close.
You're allowed to. You're allowed to speak.
I guess what I would say is, again, I made it pretty clear that I am concerned about the mass. I tend to lean towards the fact that I think this can be done well, and the fact that the petitioner, they're very good at what they do, and they are having a vibrant outreach. And in my experience, that does lead to the best projects. Now, with that being said, I do like the fact that we have checks on this, and we have another opportunity. And if the motion is made right, then we're not going to open up a can of worms, if you will, with what can be done at CMU. I would be hesitant if this was the approval today for the rezoning for what it is. But I firmly believe that if the petitioner continues down this road, we will see something that is not as intensely programmed. Maybe wrong, and then we vote against it. But
And then we get overruled.
we can get overruled on this. This is a recommendation.
I know it's a recommendation.
So, yeah. So with that being said, is there a motion on the floor?
So this is a recommendation.
It's a recommendation. Yep.
So are we adding in the language that it be tied to the hotel?
Yes.
So I move to recommend City Council approve ARC 2400000273 TACPA 24-11 for the property located at 611 South Magnolia Avenue, 601 and 611 West Swan Avenue, 612 and 614 West Bay Street, and 613 South Magnolia Avenue for the proposed change to the comprehensive plan amendment from R35 to CMU 35 with the following condition, that it be tied to a hotel development.
Dana, is that clear enough?
For purposes, Dana Crosby Collier, City Attorney's Office, this is a recommendation to City Council to approve the comp plan amendment. You can recommend that they consider that, but at the comp plan amendment stage, what you're doing is you're establishing a canvas for the property, and the rezoning and the subsequent PD and everything will be define how that property is used. It'll be CMU 35, and if they sold it tomorrow, it'll still be CMU 35. So you can recommend, you can recommend or make the comment of the understanding that you anticipate the boutique hotel be built on this property, but just understand that A, it's a recommendation to City Council, and B, it's a comp plan amendment change, and those aren't normally conditioned upon a use
So I would
like this.
scratch to the following condition, say with a
With a recommendation that, yeah.
that it be
Yeah.
a hotel development.
That, yes, be the end result.
Okay, we have a motion. I hear a second.
Second.
I have a second. We have time for any more discussion.
No. I guess we're rezoning this thing to a commercial
It's a land.
No, it's a land use change. It's not a rezon.
land use, I'm sorry. To commercial mixed use.
You're recommending
To the city council that it go to commercial mixed use. I don't think this corner of Swan and Magnolia is the appropriate place for any commercial mixed use. Let me just put it that way.
Fair enough. Any other comments? Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. We have it seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those against?
No.
No.
Okay. All right, motion passes.
Thank you.
We still have another case, so if we could.
I did submit this letter on your
Yes,
next case.
yes,
So could
I
you
have
please,
that, yeah.
and could you ask my apologies?
I will
Only
convey it. Thank you for
less than
coming.
7 days since I had my
Very
appendix.
true.
I can't even talk now.
Good evening, Commissioners. Dennis Fernandez, Architecture Review and Historic Preservation Manager. Our last case this evening is ARC 25-000055. It is a request for a modification of a roofing material for a property located in the Hyde Park Historic District. See an aerial of the subject site. It is a townhouse development, 6 units, I believe, located on Rome and the corner of Jeton. So Hyde Park Village would be just to the north and Bayshore Boulevard to the south. A little tighter view showing the 2 residential units and a parking structure. The Hyde Park Historic District map with the subject property at the base of the arrow. And the 1929 Sanborn map showing that this is not the original structure, this is a non-contributing structure that was built in 1988. Just to take a look at the structure. See, it's a 2-story structure. That's the perspective off of Rome. See, there's a retaining wall, so the property's elevated. And then as you move around to Jeton, see the side profiles of the buildings. Further down Jeton, moving to the west, there's a central entranceway. Moving more to the west, you see the parking structure. And from the alley, this is how that structure appears with the 2 residential structures in the back. If you move across the alley, this is the residential contributing structure that's on Jeton. Moving back to Rome, looking down Jeton to the west, you have the subject property and then Jeton. If you move to the north of the subject property, this is the contributing structure that exists there. This is a view along Rome, looking to the south, and then turning around. This is the view to the north. So this is just to give you a little clarification, because this is a little bit unusual. As you're aware, most roofing material changes occur at the administrative level. However, the administrative authority is limited to either change the material to a like material. So there's barrel tile, as you could see from the photographs on the structure. So we would either be able to move towards another barrel tile, or in certain situations, we can upgrade a material, as, for instance, a bungalow that may have dimensional shingle wants to go to a metal roof, and then we would do that administratively. However, this particular request is to go from the barrel tile to alternative material. I hope I'm not incorrect in saying it's a fiberglass dimensional material. They'll clarify that. And we felt that that was beyond the staff's authority, and so we had directed this to the board for consideration, because when there's a change in material, it equates to often impacting the style, and then that can be an issue that is worthy of the board discussion and public comment. So with that, I'll invite the applicants up, and they'll present their case and specific to the materials.
Good evening, everybody. My name is John Soroki, 909 South Rome Avenue. I purchased one of the 6 units there about 10 years ago. And part of the problem is that about 15 years ago, roughly, the owners of the condo at that time had a new barrel tile roof installed. And the tile that they installed approximately 15 years ago had been in a storage facility for some time, estimated to be about 15 years. So the tile that's currently on the structure is approximately between 25 and 30 years of age. During the 2023 storm that came through, not last year's, but the previous year, we had winds reaching approximately 60 miles an hour, and the tile did what they call chatter, which is jumping up and down, and it broke the connection points. I'll have Lenny Gonzalez expand on this more in a minute. He's the roofing expert. But it broke the connection points where the tile attaches to the roof, and we've had tiles sliding off of the roof and sliding forward on the roof. And we currently now, for the last year, have had 5 active leaks in 6 of the actual units. So back in 2023, I said to my neighbors, I will take this on and start to research everything. I went to as many local roofing companies as that I could, and I asked them about tile roofs. I could not find anybody at that time that was reputable, that was willing to put on a tile roof. They simply said they're not doing it. They were doing shingle roofs. I got a little bit dismayed with that, and I went to a friend of the family who they work for David Weekley Homes, a very major housing person, and they said, I asked them, I said, if you were going to recommend a roofing company to come out and to look at this, because I'm not just making this decision for myself, I'm making it for 5 other residents there, you know, who should I call? And they said that Westfall Roofing was a very reputable company, and they would help guide me through this. Because standing at my front, looking out onto Rome, looking across the street from me, I have 2, I call it salt and pepper, the black and gray roofs. And then directly across the street on an angle, I've got a clay tile roof, another tile roof, and at the end of the block, there is a building. I think I'm learning the speak is it's a it's not a historic building. It had a beautiful roof on it, and I'm like, this is really the way we want to go, not to have a salt and pepper roof. This is an important part of it, is that because the roof had only been on the building for 15 years, and it's supposed to have been a 45-year or more, they'd only been collecting money towards a new roof for 15 years. So they only had between $36,000 and $38,000 for a roof, which would have purchased one of the salt and pepper black and gray roofs with a different company than Westfall. And I didn't think that looked appropriate. I went to my neighbors and I said, I don't think that's the right thing for us to do because we need to have at least either a metal roof or something that's visible from our front porch. And I said, that's really an amazing roof down the street. Let's explore that. And that's when I contacted Westfall Roofing. And Lenny's going to give you some insight into the roofing material and the different things that the roof has to be.
Sure, yeah. Thank you, John. So Lenny Gonzalez, I'm a consultant with Westfall Roofing. I got a big earful of what goes on here today, so, and I thank you for having us. You know, this is a lot more on the lighter side. I do sits with HOAs, not typically to this capacity with city, but something like really bumped the light for me today when I'm sitting in here thinking, it's HOAs. I go into communities every day. Hunter's Green up in New Tampa, that's the city of Tampa, right? It's a community of all tile. You know, I go into West Chase. We do a lot of roofs in there. And those HOAs have adopted tile because of affordability. You know, these are 3,000, 3,600 square foot homes. They've got tile on there. Certain communities gated in there continue to do tile. Some of them have adopted shingle and they've turned it over. So I started thinking, well, I see this community, there's a little bit mixed of both. You know, you could say, well, there's tile, where I could say, well, there's shingle, you know. The building's not historic, but it's in a historic community, so it's more of a French, the cloisters, right, versus Mediterranean Spanish style. So the dilemma is that they're in is having to put on a roof before the HOA was able to pay for it for different reasons, you know. So one, not picking the right contractor and not, you know, understanding the materials that they were getting. So that's really important. When you look at tile roofing compared to shingle roofing, for years, you know, there's different grades and levels of shingle, 90 mile an hour, 110. Now most of them are max 130. So tile is still 120 to 125. And what I'm referring to is wind uplift. So water travels underneath the tile. Tile does not keep the water from going on the underlayment. So where these older roofs were failing is they were nailed down base, 80-pound modified, which is an asphalt base type granulated underlayment that was nailed down with simplex nails. The simplex nails start to rust over time, and they also start to wear and will start to break, and that's where the tiles are slipping. In their particular situation, it's a difficult one because this roof is an 812 slope. It's very steep. Building code today requires battens to go down, so metal or wood battens screwed down into the underlayment, and then the tile mounting onto the battens is required by code. So in a sense, water is going to continue to travel like it is now. We've got better underlayments today, but it's still a wood batten. That wood batten is going to deteriorate over time. There's a screw fastening that batten to the decking, which is going to deteriorate as well. So again, the primary part of this roof is the underlayment, not the tile. The tile is more aesthetics. Westfall Roofing does all aspects of roofing: metal, clay, concrete tiles. And, you know, so price points, you know, when John mentioned, gosh, I think we're going back to May of last year, he mentioned, hey, this was, you know, this is not affordable to us, you know, so I started looking into other roofing, you know, the synthetic roof type systems, metal, Decra, stone-coated steel. Everything just got higher, you know, and I thought, well, John, why aren't we talking about my shingle roof system here? And can you tear this off and replace it? And I'm not just talking about any shingle roof system. It's a particular roof system. And when I say system, I mean the underlayment, the starter strip, the ventilation, not just the shingle product itself. A product put together by the manufacturer, or products put together by the manufacturer, one, for longevity, two, for installation application guidelines, so to be able to offer better warranties. So in a sense today, and I have books here if you'd like to see the system. I brought several for the roof system that we're installing. But I'll back up here just a minute. So Ian hit down south, and we spent a lot of time down south going to look at roof systems and just what's failing. So A, how can we build a better tile roof system? And B, why is there so much tile damaged for the type of storms that we just recently had in our communities? You know, I would say North Tampa maybe saw wind gusts up to 100, sustainable 80, if that's a fair assessment. That's what I've reviewed. So a tile system at 120 miles an hour most certainly shouldn't have lifted off the nails. And a good roof system for shingle and asphalt based should not have lifted off the nails either. You know, we are seeing 3-tab shingles, 60 mile an hour rated. That was the largest area of damage that we saw. But tile, what the problem is with it is once it's dislodged or disconnected, it's flying through the field. So now it's damaging other tiles in other areas. That's predominantly for concrete tile. Step up in price, clay tile, seen a lot of clay tile installations right here in South Tampa, over there, West Shore area. No hip and ridge risers. Huge fail. Wasn't required back then. Today it's required. But the hip and ridge risers were supporting the hip and ridge, and you're seeing section of those off clay tiles blown right off the roofs. So I look at, yes, this is an area that probably should have tile because of what's mandated in the area and that it's in. But the system that I'm going to share with you and I'm discussing is the Owens Corning products. We are platinum installers for Owens Corning. Our company's in the top 1% in the country for installers for Owens Corning. So if you go to their website and look for a contractor in your zip code, we're going to pop up first. And it's because we've taken the time to hire all of our crews. We don't have subcontractors. They're all in-house crews. They're all building to the specifications of Owens Corning's guidelines. And for commercial type buildings, that's a 20-year non-prorated material and workmanship warranty on the complete system. I can't do that for tile. Tile's 10 years and limited lifetime from the manufacturer.
Can I ask you to interject something?
Sure, yeah.
We have 2 beautiful trees in the front yard that canopy over the building. And even if we did put tile back on, which we cannot afford, I'll tell you more about that in a moment, that's not rated to take mold and mildew on a tiled roof. So aesthetically, it would look this way in 2 to 3 years again. The way our roof is actually, I want to call it the nightmare of the block because it's very, very, very ugly. It's simply black and gross looking. And my brain trips ahead of me. But we did, to get this to go from what we had in our budget, we had to ask the residents to do an $8,000 assessment per unit. So we did have to go up to the $75,000 range to have the style roof that we can see off the front, which I think is an Owens Corning product. I'll let you.
It is, and
talk
also
about
with that
The black
warranty.
mold is what we didn't want to. We couldn't see if you did go find $250,000 to put this roof on, it's going to look like a mess in 3 years, where this roof's going to look good for another 20 years.
I'll jump forward to John's point. Street Guard is implemented into the Owens Corning Duration Singer shingles, and what that is copper granules mixed in with the granules inside the shingles.
Images we can put on here, he said.
Oh, okay, thank you. So, well, this is just kind of a larger image, just showing you there's granules on this, on the asphalt. But within these granules, there are also copper that's mixed into here to prohibit mold and mildew growth. So a brand new tile roof doesn't offer anything. There's a coating on there, and that coating is going to wear over time. Concrete is porous, just like a concrete sidewalk, and that's going to absorb mold and mildew, where the shingles are going to resist mold and mildew from the copper granules. So that is one aspect of that. Owens Corning backs that in their warranty. They also give a wind rating, a wind uplift rating of max 130 mile an hour. That's the max wind zone that we're in. But the shingle with the duration Sure Nail technology is tested to 150 miles an hour with 4 nails. Florida Building Code requires 6 nails. So you're more than covered at 130 miles an hour. They guarantee that in that platinum warranty for 15 years. And they also guarantee that through a named storm. No other shingle on the market today will guarantee a named storm. GAF, Certainteed, Atlas, what they're going to do is they're going to opt out of that warranty and have homeowners speak to their insurance companies to get replacements or repairs and things like that, where Owens Corning, when there's a problem with their shingles, they're gonna go ahead and cover it under the warranty. And that's 15-year high wind coverage, 130 mile an hour. So named storm doesn't matter, still covered under the warranty. Our workmanship is covered by the manufacturer because they've trained us to install their products. That's also 20 years. So 20 years on the material, 20 years on the workmanship. And if Westfall Roofing goes out of business, doesn't matter. Big Brother will find the next platinum contractor in the neighborhood or in the region to come out and do the work for them. So, so it is about a system. Not every shingle is the right shingle. But I think in their situation and what John's presented to me, I thought, how can we still put something on here that's going to beautify the community and the neighborhoods and appease the boards and also shed some light on there are some shingle products out here that you're seeing are better products today than tile even being put on today. My best tile roof system is 30 years with 2 layers of underlayment. The homeowner is paying extra for that per square for an additional layer of Polyglass TU Plus and then an additional layer of MTS. So the price just keeps going up, but the warranty is still going to be 10 years. Well, it's going to be 30-year for the underlayment systems, but you're still getting limited lifetime from the manufacturer for the tile. So, and again, water's running under those. So they are building better systems. They're trying to figure out, well, for the price point, how can we build a longevity in tile? You know, in my opinion, I feel like tile is, you know, more of, you know, it's not a realistic product for roofing because we aren't getting longevity out of it. In their situation, maintenancing on an 812, he mentioned they had to tent the building and they broke tiles. We've had to take the chimney cap covers off because they've got leaks and we've removed them and we're refabricating new ones to meet today's codes because they went from a 2 to a 1. So we're separating all those and we've got them covered with wood now and tarped. So they're waiting on decisions to be made as we got into this project and we've started pulling permits, realizing that, you know, we've got to speak of that.
Last May.
Yeah, so
And
this is.
we're trying to get this
Yep,
resolved
it's
before
been
the
going on
rainy
for some
season
time.
of this year because of the active leaves.
So the system would have a peel and seal underlayment, non-nail down base. It's going to be easier to walk on. You know, even a brand new shingle roof with the proper footwear, you can walk an 812. It's very difficult to walk that tile. The mildew on it makes it slippery on an 812. And you don't walk on it at all. Well, I do because I'm in the industry. I have no choice. But I'm wearing tiger paws. You know, I've got fall safe gear. You know, I've got a ladder assist as much as I can. You know, and I'm not going to do it on a rainy day. You know, so
Adding on to that, also the termite tenting companies want to charge a huge upcharge for tenting the property, and the top half of our building is wood construction. The bottom half is concrete. And we're actually due to be tented again relatively soon. And so it's more expensive for everything with that roof. And if we had had the time to collect the money over the next 30 years, we probably, with what I've learned about the roofing, we would probably still want to change the roofing style. What I put up on the screen for you to see was my big concerns were, because I was trying to help people guide them through the process, is that we didn't put on a product that took away from the value of the buildings, because our buildings, as you know, we're approaching $1 million value. I think the last one sold for a little over $700,000. So this is the.
Similar to tile, this is terracotta, the color, so it has the colors of tile, but a consistent pattern. There was a shingle sample we left behind, but it didn't make it here.
This is what we see when I look down the street. This is what's on the house that's about 3 doors down on the other side of the street.
So the designer colors, 6 and 7 color granules to create more dimension and kind of play with your eyes a little bit too. So it matches more paint schemes moving forward. A lot of homeowners that,
Stand behind the.
oh, yes, sir. Thank you. Yeah, a lot of paint schemes, you know, homeowners get their roof done, or communities are getting the roof done, then they look towards painting. So the designer colors came into play because it did really help to match more colors because more color granules in there. So the colors on the cloisters have, it's very soft, light color. There's a lot you can do with it, but one of my thoughts were Sedona Canyon, which is in the designer collection, and the terracotta in the standard collection, because it does tie into the colors of the tile, and even like tile blends that you see out there today that give you some light and dark colors, you know. So it's got the Sedona Canyon, for instance, has the terracotta. It has some rustic browns and some oranges in there that are tastefully done to give you that dimensional look, whereas terracotta, as you see below, more of a consistent pattern. You know,
What I keep putting up on the screen here, and it keeps going away on me, is a picture of a home that is Mediterranean in style, that happens to be the honey blush yellow color of our residence, to give you an idea of what this dimensional roof system will look like on the building. It basically blends itself more to what they call the cedar shake shingle type look. So this is why I keep putting that up for you to look at.
So inside the brochure, inside the folder there, has the system itself of what we're putting together with the asphalt-based shingles that give that dexterity in color. The designer colors and the standard colors both have the Sure Nail technology, which are meeting that 150 mile an hour testing with 4 nails. And you're also seeing that with tile, you're not going to have to use the battens, as I mentioned earlier. So there's going to be less damage underneath the tiles. Everything are going to work onto the surface, and then we're going to ventilate the roof properly to give that longevity inside the attic, to make sure where shingle roofs break down, that I see more often than not is because they're underventilated. You know, homes get constructed, new construction building. When I didn't know anything about roofing, I used to sit in an office and sketch the plans and tell the builder, well, you need 6 off-ridge vents on this roof, or, you know, 4 double Amanco 770D vents. And, oh, no, I just want 3 on the back. All right, well, that roof's going to fail in 10 or 15 years because it's not properly ventilated. It's going to dry out. All the moisture comes out of the material. And I will say I'm partial to Owens Corning because they back their warranties. I've seen warranty claims with other roofing material, and sometimes it's very difficult to get it. They might opt out for it being improperly ventilated. So one of the things that we do is have an engineering calculation done to make sure we have the proper ventilation, and that's decided by the intake of the soffit, along with the ridge line and the exit flow and the area beneath it.
This was originally before we knew that we had to ask permission, because I had never done this before in my life. This is originally what I asked for, and all of the residents said we like that because this is like what we see down the street from us. So that was the original thing that we wanted before we found out we had to have permission for that. What the house that I put up more had this type of a color combination, and I'm showing these to you because should the board decide that this is more appropriate for our residents than this is what you would rather see, all the residents there are willing to do whatever is needed to have our roof go on, so our leaks will stop. And if they want to stay with the red, because originally they said that we were more of a Spanish feel, and even the name of our building is the Cloisters of Hyde Park, which is French, and we had attached to the Acela thing, a paperwork that was done by an architect that said that our building basically was an American French style, which I guess is still semi-Mediterranean. And we felt that it was appropriate to have that cedar shake shingle look, if you will, as a roofing product on the building. So, but that's where we're at with those. If it's
This is asphalt, it's not cedar shake.
No, but
But
it's
I
more
think what John's trying to share with you
Sure.
is the dexterity and the color when you go to that.
But if they think this looks better for the neighborhood, we're willing to go with any of those
Sure,
three
perfect.
products. If it's one's chosen, whoever needs to, make that decision, we're willing to bend and do whatever it takes to be the right look. Because once again, we asked for help with this
Sure.
entire process.
All right, thank you. Anything else in your presentation?
No, sir.
Perfect, thank you. Dennis?
Thought maybe it might be helpful just to put the photos back on again. There you go. So just a couple points, it's a little unusual. We're gonna talk about public comment again in a moment. There's a letter in your packets that was submitted earlier as well. So from the staff's analysis of this, obviously, we feel that this exceeds the administrative authority under 27-118. The proposed material is inappropriate to the architectural style. We feel the architectural style is more of a Spanish eclectic. That, that is something that I haven't seen any evidence that would steer us away from that. So this is being properly presented to you. The staff's recommendation is that not necessarily that a barrel tile be the only material that can go on this structure, but that something that's more appropriate to the architectural style be utilized, something more similar to a barrel tile if an alternative is being selected. Because the dimensionality of the barrel is really very consistent with the architectural cues that are being given off by this property. You can see, one point just on the south elevation, how the tiles wrap the edge of the roof line. It's very indicative of Spanish eclectic. So just to reiterate, this is a non-contributing structure. So in theory, the ownership could come in and apply to totally remodel this building to a different style, and that would be something that could be entertained. We're not preserving this particular structure in its original historic references architecturally, but there is a component of this being within the Hyde Park Historic District and maintaining accurate historic references to those that exist in the district. So that's your charge for this evening. Sorry to place you in that position, but that's how the code leads us here.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. Is there anyone in the audience to speak for or against? Not seeing anyone, we're going to move on with questions for the commissioner on my left.
I don't think I have any questions at this time.
No questions.
No questions.
I have one question. What year was this is probably for, anybody, the year that the buildings were built?
The buildings were constructed in 1988.
Okay, from your presentation, it sounds like your choice of materials is mainly driven by money, but there is some desire for potential ease of maintenance. Did you look at any other materials that were similar to barrel tile from an aesthetic standpoint and from, for example, what Dennis brought up about wrapping the edges and those kind of things?
So I will say that wrapping the edges is optional. There are some communities that don't.
Optional with what material?
As far as installing tile,
Oh, with tile.
it's an option. You could stop the tile at the end of the gable rake and just cut it and cement it over, or you can have the aesthetic barrel look. We offer both when I'm in communities for homeowners, as long as HOAs allow it. Some HOAs don't care and they're indifferent. It changes a little bit of the design on the house. It covers the drip edge is what it really does, so less water trafficking there too. So, but you're adding to the amount of tile that you're putting onto the roofs as well. So
I don't think I heard an answer. Did you look at any other materials?
yes, sir. So I don't have, excuse me, have them with me today, but we priced F-Wave, which is the synthetic underlayment, or the synthetic similar to shingle, but it's priced up there with metal. We priced clay. Originally, that's where we were starting, was clay tile. So I can kind of give you the tiers. You've got the shingle.
No, that's fine. I guess my question was, is this the original design of this building? This was the original roof, right?
No. The carport has the original tiles from 1988, and they were not changed out 15 years ago. Just the two main buildings had their roofs done.
Okay, but the original, when they built this building, it was
Yes.
clay tile?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
It's concrete
Concrete
tile.
tile.
Concrete tile. All right, so the idea in the Hyde Park Design Guidelines is to replace with a like material, and the exact wording is, or a similar material, because when they designed this building, whether you believe it's a French, whatever the term you use, French-American, whatever, there are certain design elements, even though it's not a historic home. So you can't, in this community, you can't go and start changing those elements and mixing and matching down the road. So my question is, and you didn't know that, but now that you know that, is there another material that would give us the detailing of concrete tile like we have it without completely changing this detail and going with shingle?
So there's Decra stone-coated steel, which has shapes of tile, Decra Villa, but that is probably the most elite roof system, out of, I would say, 350 roofs I installed last year. Personally, one was Decra. It's not because of the price point. So that's probably your highest price point. Metal is going to be metal, but that's the next tier down from price points. And then you have your clay tile, concrete tile, but in between clay tile and metal is also the synthetic. We call it F-Wave. And F-Wave right now hasn't really taken off. So there's difficulty there with loading those by the distributors and getting them put on the shelf because they came in at such a high price point.
So
Plastic.
It's like a TPO that's a shingle in a sense. Everything is installed just like a shingle. But just like the dimensional shingles here, they have designs that make it look somewhat like tile.
Okay, but I think I know where you're going with that. Okay.
And it's plastic.
Yeah, it's a synthetic TPO, so it's in a sense like a hybrid.
Okay.
One other question. I was going to ask you, so you looked into imitation metallic tiles. What brand of clay tile were you looking at? Were you looking at clay tile or were you looking at concrete tile?
We started there, yes, sir. Varia,
Okay.
down in central South Florida.
Down in Miami, yeah, yeah. I'm putting them on hotel right now, Varia.
Yeah. They bought out the Altusa patent, so where you're seeing Altusa is no longer meeting building code specs. They're able to run those.
Right. You're going to have to put a new underlayment on anyway, right?
Yes, sir.
You're going to use a polyglass or something else like that. With a clay tile roof, you have to do that anyway, and it's self-healing, so the nails don't really create leaks. Like maybe, I have a feeling this was just really crappily installed.
Could be. Well, and that's the thing.
Okay.
Installation is
And
key
it's
to a
concrete.
successful roof.
And it's concrete tile, so the concrete tile is did you look into that option?
Yes, sir, we did. Price pointed just less than clay. But, you know, again there though, with the tiles, you're using those battens, those wood battens. Water's gonna run on those battens and deteriorate. You know, the screws, yes, will self-adhere, but eventually you're gonna rot out the battens.
Okay, I mean, I don't want to get into any more commentary on that because, I mean, you use stainless steel screws, you can foam and nail, you can do all kinds of things.
Yes, sir.
Above and beyond that.
We can minimize
But-
water traffic by putting
Right.
down tile bonding.
And the mold and mildew problem you brought up, that's a factor of the concrete tile,
It is,
not of a clay tile.
that's right.
Clay tile is
Clay tile's
guaranteed
smooth,
against
so
mold and
less
mildew.
porous.
Yeah, well, they actually, Varea has a 20-year or 30-year guarantee against mold and mildew, correct?
Yeah, smooth.
Okay, yeah, okay. Yeah, not textured, never
That's
textured.
correct, yeah.
Never.
The concrete just being porous is what's allowing
Correct.
it, just like
Okay.
a sidewalk.
I have no other questions.
Thank you. Just a question for staff. So what they're proposing to use, dimensional shingle, is not prohibited in the district, it's permitted in the district. It's just, there's an appropriateness for
dimensional
this
shingle
particular building.
is throughout the all the
Yes.
historic districts.
Great,
You know, subject to architectural appropriateness.
of course. Thank you.
Okay. Not seeing any other questions. The petitioner has 5 minutes for rebuttal, if you so choose. No, yeah, you got 5 minutes of rebuttal.
I think the most important thing is that we have the inability to raise the amount of money, $250,000, to get into that replacement of the roof. Not that this is important, but 3 of the new owners there are in their early 20s to mid-20s. They're all in school. They are studying for their professions. They all have student loans and money, and it was actually difficult for them to come up with the $8,000, almost $8,000 that we had to do the assessment to get to the $75,000 for this roof. So it is a financial hardship for half of the community. The other half are seniors like ourselves, and we have a little bit more access, but not that kind of access, at least not speaking for myself and my wife personally, to get up to that dollar amount to get to that type of roof. We would very much like, that's why we called on the professionals to have within our budget what we can afford to have it look befitting of Hyde Park. And like I said earlier, looking right across the street from me down, I have the same product there on a 3-story condominium building. I'm not an expert at what architectural style it is. It has octagon-shaped rooms on 2 of the corners. It kind of looks like a castle to me. But I'm seeing that product right there. I think it's beautiful. My neighbor across the street, who owns 2 of the bungalows, he said that if he needed me to come to a meeting, he would be happy to. Spiro said that he wished me best of luck with my roof. He would love to see that roof across the street. My neighbor to the north of me has the salt and pepper roof as well, Brenton Lemoncelli. He said that he would love to see that roof. So I've got the support of my surrounding neighbors and my neighbors across the street that get to look at our building the most. And they agreed, looking at the different pictures, they thought this would beautify the neighborhood and was befitting of being there, any one of these choices. And like I said, putting in front of you all, the one choice that was presented to me to look at that would be approved if I didn't come to this meeting was a Bravadia tile, which is actually plastic. And part of the architecture review committee, me learning and reading the different rules and regulations, I'm pointing at the rules and regulations over here, is that no plastic soffits or siding are allowed to be used, but yet a plastic roof that would be even more slippery for workers to be on than the roof we're asking for was suggested that could go on the building. And that was way out of, that's actually up there with metal. And I think Lenny's comparative roof to that is the T-wave. The F-wave. which basically is a plastic, it's a plastic Coke bottle, manufactured roof. So, and I looked at the pictures in their brochure, because I did look at that, because I wanted to do everything before I called, for the professionals to look at it. I actually looked at the Erie metal roof that I saw on Facebook. And I talked to my neighbor across the street, and he said the problem with that is that it wasn't tried and true yet, being so close to the salt water. He said you could have rust start happen to where the material broke away from the underlayment of the metal. And I didn't want to steer my other 5 neighbors down another nightmare road. We're looking for a roof that's going to be tried and true, that's going to hold up the test of time and give us time to get money should they decide the next, I'll be gone by then. Hopefully I'm still here. I'm 62 years of age, but then 25 years from now, they might decide to go back to another roof should this be allowed to happen, a different style roof. But that's why we presented this, because we wanted what we felt was the most beautiful for our neighborhood, because we love the neighborhood and we want to make sure that it fits the Hyde Park image. Even though we're not a historic building, we want to look the part and do our part. So we've done a lot. We just didn't take the easiest one, all right? And I thank you for your time and the consideration that you're giving for me and my community this evening. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, at this point, we'll close the public hearing, the public portion of the hearing, and move on to discussion.
I'm a little bit torn. They clearly are not gonna have the money to put on the barrel. So I don't know, if 5 of the units have leaks, the building's gonna continue to deteriorate without something being done, it sounds like, to the roof. So I'm interested in hearing what y'all think about whether it's appropriate to let them put the shingles, because it's gonna end up being a mess if they don't do anything.
I'm concerned about allowing the argument that we can't afford to do it be the basis of allowing stuff that doesn't meet the standards. And I understand this is a non-contributing house or structure and all that, but 2 structures, non-contributing. It sounds like they have a case for going after the last roofer, the concrete tile. But, I mean, I honestly, I'm torn too. I mean, I don't have a problem with asphalt shingles. They presented an asphalt shingle in a terracotta color that, from a block away would simulate the same appearance, and color. There's a way, I just don't know if we can allow money to be the issue.
Well, here's what I would chime in. There's going to be a number of cases coming to us for re-roofing. And I think we absolutely need to steer away from financial concerns, because that will be the ultimate argument.
Ever.
So
yeah.
The question is, while this is non-contributing, is the roof detail the dominant feature that if it does change, is it, so detrimental?
It's a prominent appearance aspect of these 2 buildings, of these 2 structures. And the fact that the parking structure has the original clay tile on it, and that has remained. That hasn't been damaged. The concrete tile that was replaced on the 2 main structures is what has been damaged, and what is mildewed, and what is molded, and what doesn't look good. But yeah, I'm completely torn.
Commissioner Hammond, Commissioner Poe?
Speak up.
Well, to me, I'm a little torn too, but to me, it contributes, significantly to the building. I mean, I'm not that it's a great architectural statement of a building on its own.
But the roof tile is like half of the building.
It is. It is. So, yeah, I think it contributes more than enough to the look of the building.
Could any of you, I defer to the architectural experts on the panel here, so could any of you have seen if this were coming through and for approval as being built this way? Would this roof be appropriate to this design? Are we a little stuck on the fact that it's different than what's there now?
Maybe
Or would
that.
it be appropriate?
Yeah, I
and
mean.
not, or at least sufficient
Yeah,
to
it
say
might have been
it's gonna
sufficient
be
at one
okay?
point in time, but the design standards state,
Understood, I just was asking the question.
yeah, the design standard states you can't reduce the quality. You know, you have to maintain the quality.
Yeah,
Well, I don't know if it's the quality, I think it's the appearance. But in any event.
Quality materials, quality of appearance, you know, yeah. Replace similar with similar.
But the shingle, you wouldn't find it inappropriate if it were,
If this were just coming through, I mean, that's your
Yes.
question, right?
Yes.
If this were coming through.
As a new
would I-
build.
Would I find, as a new build, probably not.
probably not.
Probably not, you know, in that the, you know, the building itself doesn't have a real strong, design direction. I mean, where everybody's kind of fumbling around for what it is.
So that's, I guess that's where that leads to, is I doubt you could take this building, put a shingle roof on it and say, oh, well, that would be approved. Because it wouldn't, because it doesn't have a thematic, anything that's strong. And I think we would probably be, staff and the board would be saying, define it a little bit better. So,
So could we recommend that this matter be continued to allow them to continue to talk to staff and see if there's a way to mix what's appropriate with further investigation as far as the cost? Because I hear you about, we're probably gonna get more of these, but I also trust that if there are 3 students and 3 senior couples, they're never gonna be able to raise the money.
Oh, I
to do
mean,
the-
from a financial standpoint, we can't, I don't think we should open
Yeah.
up that
So my
can of
point,
worms.
are we able to continue it and let
But
them
there's no
further talk to
solution.
the staff?
They've gone through the solutions.
Well, maybe they can look at something that mirrors a tile, whether it's concrete, and maybe they can work with the roofer.
But
who
they've
will-
said that's above.
Who will provide a price point that, you know, to see
If
if
the
there's a way to work through it.
If the alternative is denying this, then this. like,
Then
your
that's it.
Right,
Yeah,
your
then-
suggestion is.
well,
Then they have to
the next
repair.
step, the next step is they go to city council and they can plead a economic hardship to city council. But then you say, well, this board did what it was supposed to do, and city council overturned it. I mean, there is another avenue.
That's the option to this.
Yeah, that's the option to it. And I, for one, as able as our staff is, our staff does look to this board to set some precedent, so that it all doesn't get thrown on them, because it's
Right.
going to be a sticky situation coming up.
Right. So
I
are
mean,
we-
you know, that, my only other thought on that is like, okay, so what if there were, there were things that on the building? What if some of the detailing on the building, and I don't know if there's even enough here to even say that. I mean, what if it were painted white and it had a, you know, I don't know.
A green roof or something.
Yeah, something, you know, something that would, that made it different.
It's
you know,
interesting that Dennis brought up at the very beginning that staff can approve a roofing change if it's a step up.
Or the
And,
same,
or the same.
yeah. Right, yeah, okay.
And so clearly, what we're talking about is a step down. And that's against the design guidelines. And that's why I wanted to know about the metal, I wanted to know which brand of clay tile, because you can buy, you know, Ludovici clay tile, which is here.
Is there a less?
Oh, I've just went through this whole process for you know, what, an 80 square roof. You can go way up here to Ludovici, and then there's mid-level tiles, and Varea is actually one of the lower tiles, one of the most affordable tiles, but they have very good quality. And then there's down here, which is like imported El Salvadoran, the guy in his backyard, folding clay tiles over his knee and curing them in a over an open fire. And you can buy those even cheaper. So there are grades of clay tile, considerable grades of clay tile, and then concrete tile is beneath that. And they're saying, but concrete tile is beyond their budget still, and nothing is cheaper than asphalt shingles,
So
frankly.
maybe it's that they have to go to city council to do the economic hardship and hopefully prevail at that point.
Again, another example is somebody wants to replace windows with vinyl windows. They're gonna be cheaper.
We can't
than
afford
wood, and
to
you can't-
replace them
you
with
can't
wood
do
windows,
that.
and we can't do
So,
that.
Yeah, but it's unfortunate, but there are avenues that have to be done.
Even though it's a non-contributing structure. That's my other kind of like, hesitant point. But, we can't approve a reduction in the level of the quality of the materials.
Okay, so do I hear a motion?
I move to deny a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at this public hearing in ARC 25-000055 for the property at, where's the property? 909 South Rome? Because based upon the finding of fact, the proposed project is inconsistent with the Hyde Park design guidelines of the City of Tampa and does not comply with Chapter 27 of the City of Tampa ordinances.
Okay, so do I hear a second?
Excuse me for 1 second. If you could just add the reasons, there's some backup in your staff report that can guide you on just
Go to city council.
adding some reasons to your motion. Yeah, so if you go to,
I understand.
yeah, just page 55 has some examples.
Because the standards require roofing and detailing as defining of the character of its house and the surroundings, that a modification or replacement of a roof or roofing no, that's not, it's underlined, but that's not what I want to add. That it's not permissible, it's permissible to maintain the original roofing material, it's permissible to repair or replace roofing with material as close to the original as possible in size and shape, but it is not permissible to replace roofing with a material which is not characteristic of the building style.
Okay, so that's a motion. Do I hear a second? Second. All right, we have a second. Any other discussion? Not seeing any. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any against? No against. The motion passes to deny. Sorry about that. Good luck moving forward. Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to accept,
Receive and file.
to receive and file submitted documents and exhibits.
So moved.
All right.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? No. Motion passes. And we are adjourned. That was brutal.